Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 182nd edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Wellings. I have a bit of a sore throat tonight, but we're going to soldier on, guys. We have to discuss these fights. Nothing will stop us now. I have a packed panel as well to help me run through the weekend's action, consisting of Dave Lee, Adam, Andy's on, Kurt, Paul, and Mr. Dave Lowback. Don't forget, guys, you're listening on YouTube live now, to subscribe to us on YouTube. Also, subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. It's June 2016, so nothing less than 5 stars. Well, you give us 2,000 stars if you want. Nothing less than 5 stars will do. Is acceptable in June. There's only one place to start, guys. It's going to have to be China, isn't it? And Adam's going on about this Fortuna fight all the time. We're going to have to discuss this first. But Adam, I'm going to say no. We're going to go to the O2 first in London.
Steve, you had me worried then, lad.
Don't worry. No, I just watched the Fortuna fight, actually, for what it's worth. But we're going to go to the O2 in London, Adam. Don't worry. We're going to come to you first as well. But I'm just going to run through some of the more notable results. Obviously, Anthony Joshua knocking out Dominic Breazeale in the 7th round for the IBF World Heavyweight title. George Groves got a unanimous decision victory over Martin Murray for a bauble. Chris Eubank Jr. defended his British middleweight title with a 4th round knockout win over Tom Doran. John Wayne Hibbert was upset by Andrea Scarpa in the 6th round. And there were wins for Dillian White, massively impressively. Khalid Jafai, didn't see that one. Anthony Ogogo, didn't see that one. Felix Cash, Ted Cheeseman, and Connor Benn. So, Adam, the big guy, AJ himself, it was a strange one, really, because a lot of people expected Breazeale to go early. We were saying within 3 or 4 rounds. I actually said 5 rounds, and Donny sort of laughed at me, and I was being a bit of an optimist, to be honest with you. Graham Houston, the well-respected Boxing Monthly writer based in Canada, said that he thought Dominic Breazeale would go a few rounds, and we sort of laughed at him a little bit, but it turned out that Breazeale had a decent beard on him. He's a strange big lump now. He's not in the best of shape, but he showed toughness, he showed durability. He never really pushed Joshua at all. He stood there, he took his lumps. I was surprised Joshua didn't go to the body a little bit more. I thought he hurt him whenever he went to the body. In turn, I thought Breazeale landed on Joshua to the body a few times and backed him up. But ultimately, like I said before, Breazeale looked like he's punching underwater. No speed, no real ability to get inside and take advantage of any opportunities or any openings that Joshua presented to him. And there were a few there. Breazeale couldn't get his jab off. And I'd never noticed before that he closes his eyes when he takes a punch, but ultimately Joshua got rid of him in the 7th, closed his eyes for good. And what do you think, Adam? What's your overriding opinion on the matter?
I've not watched the replay yet, and I've not really made a concrete conclusion. Breazeale's delivered more than expected, as in he's gone more rounds than what we've seen before. But that's all he's done. I know Dillian went similar amount of rounds, but that's all he's done. Breazeale didn't offer anything in the way of response or performance himself. As you said, Steve, he just stood there and took his lumps. He didn't hardly land. He didn't land anything of note. He didn't even threaten Joshua at any point for my liking. He did try to the body, but he was just too slow. And he just showed that he had a chin. I think Joshua impressed me with, he got to his boxing quite regularly. His jab was okay, but he controlled the fight from the first second to the last second. He didn't have a hairy moment at all. He didn't have a nervous moment. He didn't get punched. I thought his left hook was half decent, but the first time we saw him land his right hand multiple times in a 30-second period, the fight was over. And it was quite clear at the start of that, I think it was the 7th, at the start of that round, he landed his right hand 2 or 3 times, and it was clear that it was going to be over very quickly. Before that, he wasn't really he was landing right hand sporadically, but, not in quick succession. So, I can't say Breazeale was pretty poor. As I've said, he didn't really offer anything, and Joshua did what he had to do. I think in a way, given that Breazeale did practically nothing, in the way of offense, you could say it's disappointing that Joshua didn't get him out there earlier. But as we see often with prospects as they go up further in levels, not that Breazeale's an elite fighter, but you get better resistance, and I think that's possibly what we saw. I think it's worth noting that Howard Foster definitely had a moment in the second that I think largely went unnoticed, but when Breazeale kind of stumbled backwards, and ended up towards the ropes. The ropes by no means held him up. Foster had a look, and we was getting flashbacks of Enzo versus Oville and Brian Rose versus Carson Jones. He stood in the middle, almost stopped AJ in his tracks. That could have been another notch on the horrific CV of Howard Foster, but it didn't really impact on the result in the end. I would like to see Joshua in against Parker next time. It is the mandatory apparently, and I think that's another step up in class, because I think Parker's got I think he's got the similar size to Breazeale, but he's definitely more mobile, faster, and will offer more in the way of attacks. But yeah, it was. I'm not really fussed either way last night. It was just another notch on Joshua's career. Everyone's made loads of money. Belgium have just scored. Everyone's made loads of money, and then we go on to the next one. When's the next time that we have to, or people like Paul have to spend 17 quid?
Did you pay for it?
Done. No. I tell you what I did. I went to my friends, and I told him all week that I planned all week to sit home and watch it. And I was never going to pay for it. And then he said, "Do you want to come round?" I said, "I'm not being funny, but I'm refusing to pay." So he paid. So yeah.
Did anybody pay for it?
The guy's house who I went to paid for it. Yeah. But I told him categorically that I would not be making any contribution, and he said fair enough. He owed me a favour anyway.
Are you asking Andy if anybody else on the call paid for it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul did.
Well, no, Paul did. I mean, we're not.
Oh, Dave
no, didn't.
Dave Lee.
I didn't pay for it.
You were watching it in some pub, were you? No.
Mate, I was watching it in the. I set myself a £17 budget at the pub, and well, yeah, I didn't exactly stick to it, so it was more expensive than watching it at home. But I got to sit next to a bunch of 18-year-old lads in a pub. One of them I heard saying that Conor Benn could be the next middleweight world champion, which was probably my favourite line of the night.
Resist, Paul? Did you get never jump in on those things? Did you?
Mate,
did you put them
honestly, the more I was drinking, I stopped myself drinking at a point because the amount of stupid things I was hearing around me. It was, and I've always tried to be a defender of the casual fan because a lot of people think I am a big casual, but I get why everyone hates them now. When you're in an arena and you're sat on a row, you can only hear a few people, but when you're in a pub and it was, I will say one thing, this is a pub that doesn't show boxing normally, but it was absolutely rammed to people coming to watch the fight. Some of the comments that people heard are still upsetting me today. I had a bad day at work because of the comments I heard last night. It was shocking.
Well, Paul, cool yourself down, right? Let's have a little look at Breazeale here. Now, we know coming in, he'd fought guys who were a lot smaller than him. He hadn't got a great resume, to be fair. Former college American football. I think he'd pretty much wandered into boxing. He'd fought at the Olympics, but he was unsuccessful, basically. And he's amassed a decent record and walked away with, I think, something in the region of $4 million last night for that, so I heard. So similar to Charles Martin. What? $4 million. That's the figure I heard. Now I could be wrong. I don't know.
Breazeale got $4 million.
You heard wrong, Stephen.
That's a lot of money.
Breazeale got $4 million.
Mate, if Breazeale got $400,000, I would be very surprised.
Well, the pound has gone through the floor, so he might have got $10 million.
According to an American talking head YouTube video earlier on, he said Breazeale was getting up to raining around $4 million.
That's bollocks.
Okay, well that's bollocks, everybody. Sorry about that. So similar.
Sorry, back to your question.
Martin, he hasn't walked away with a bumper payday, but I mean, Carl Froch at the end was saying this is the time now for AJ to sort of put aside all these type of opponents. His learning curve is over now. He has to move on to the likes of your Parkers, even your Pulevs. People are mentioning David Price, but I wouldn't even be happy to see that. Talking about
David fucking Price.
No way. The Parkers, the Ortizes. The Deontay Wilder one was quite funny. I was saying this earlier, actually, right, in our direct messaging group. Whenever he was asked about Deontay Wilder, Paul, do you think that AJ's response was quite funny? He said something about, well, I respect him, something about being blessed or something, and, he's an inspiration. And what was that all about?
He has this weird thing where he won't actively call out Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder because they have belts. I don't know if you've ever seen a video where he once explained how, in his mind, the heavyweight rankings worked. He put Deontay Wilder number 1 because he had defended his title. And then he put Tyson Fury number 2 because he had just won the title, and himself in at 3. He's very weird when he talks about those two. I don't understand whether he thinks He doesn't want to look like he's being disrespectful by calling them out. He just says, obviously I will fight them, but they're champions and this, that, and the other. The problem is, because he's so scripted, it's very difficult when sometimes he goes off script, and you can almost see in his eyes he's going, oh shit, I've got to get back on script now, and say what I'm meant to say. I thought that, to be fair, Dominic Breazeale, the problem with Breazeale is he offered nothing offensively. I think a lot of people with Joshua, it's not so much they want to see Joshua go rounds, they just want to see him have to cope with someone really laying it on him. And as much as people talk about Dillian Whyte only did that for a very short period of time. Obviously, in his last fight against Charles Martin, he had nothing to defend himself against. Looking at the videos of Breazeale in the build-up to the fight, especially like the workout videos, he looked very, very poor. He didn't seem to be extending his shots. For someone so tall, he seemed to fight quite within himself. But he defended well. I think Joshua looked like he'd telegraphed a lot of shots. I think the straight right hand, which is normally such a good weapon for him, really wasn't working. I think it was frustrating to see him not switch down to the body when he was clearly landing body shots.
Talk to me about that, Paul, because you were saying about the body actually last night.
Yeah, I think when you're up against a heavyweight as big as Breazeale, and Breazeale's natural instinct is to keep his hands by his head. It's not like you're dealing with someone with a smaller weight, with a smaller torso. Breazeale's a big guy. He had his whole side of his body basically as an open target. And one thing that Joshua can do quite well is he turns that left jab over. It's almost like a short left hook. And he should have been taking that down to the body because it would have opened up the headshots. I think he'll find that if he goes in against guys who have a little bit of defensive nous about them, you shouldn't really get knocked out from headshots if you're defending yourself as tightly as Breazeale was. And that's why he managed to survive so long. And I thought that Joshua was quite ploddy in a way, in the fact that he was following Breazeale around the ring and then sticking to a simple 1-2 combination. I understand, obviously, he didn't want to necessarily gas by throwing too many punches, but it was crying out for combinations last night. And he never also, one thing that I think he failed to do was, in other fights, he's been very successful at manoeuvring his opponent towards the ropes. And then when they're on the ropes, they've got nowhere to go. And he's a very clinical finisher. And that's how the fight did come to an end. But it took him an awful long time to get that. And if you think about the only time that Breazeale was hurt in the fight, apart from at the end, was I think it was in round 2. And that was a body shot. I think he was very susceptible to it. And I don't know whether he wasn't getting the right instructions in the corner. Again, I was in the pub and we had adverts on, so I didn't hear any of the corner work. But it seemed a very basic performance. But the only thing I will say is this. He won every single round and he knocked the guy out. People will criticise him because they're going to. And this idea of learning fights, for me, is no longer acceptable. He's a world champion. No more learning fights. He has to fight people he's meant to fight. For me, it should be Joseph Parker next, and then it should be a Deontay Wilder or whatever the hell's going on with the other two. The winner of that fight should be who he's fighting next year. No more warm-ups. No more David Prices or Dillian Whyte rematches. We're not at British level anymore. He's meant to be a world champion. He holds a world title. No more time for learning. He's got to fight these guys.
Sing it, brother, sing it. Andy, one guy who was watching quite interestingly from the ringside was David Haye. He seemed to see quite a lot of flaws in Joshua as
David Haye.
He also talked a lot of bullshit too. We had a question on Facebook from Liam Wynn. I'm going to put this one to you actually, Andy. Liam says, would David Haye's lateral and head movement coupled with his explosive power trouble Big AJ? Is he going to be able to back up what he was saying last night, Haye?
I did say last night that I believe Fury would beat AJ if he can get his head together and get into shape and stuff. Haye would give him a lot of problems with the movement. The thing is with Haye, he could do it for 12 rounds. I agree with what Paul was saying as well. AJ didn't work the body much last night, maybe because everything he was doing, jab, right hand, most of it was kind of landing and such. But yeah, I think anybody with movement, and probably a guy like Haye, would probably give him a lot of problems. Can he knock him out? I really don't know. We've not really seen AJ really tested. Maybe Dillian Whyte as such, but we've still got to see him take a legit punch. So the jury's still out on that one. Can he take Haye's power? But yeah, I think Haye could definitely cause him problems with the movement.
Dave Lee, the jab was working. The jab was working well last night, Dave. A question I was going to ask you. You see, if Dominic Breazeale went in with Shannon Briggs, who do you think would win that fight?
Let's go, champ. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, Breazeale is the kind of opponents that Briggs would be fighting, isn't it? He's just. like we said a few weeks ago, Breazeale was, a voluntary first offence, and he was chosen for a reason. I mean, yeah, he was tough, he was brave, too brave for his own good, but from a technical standpoint, he's about as bad as you're going to see from a world title challenger. He was just slow, cumbersome, poor stance, devoid of any offensive imagination. And after the fight, Hanning was talking about people having egg on their faces. Why? It's okay. It lasted longer than many of us predicted. I said 3 to 4 rounds. It went 7. So what? It was still as one-sided as advertised. I mean, look. Joshua is a super exciting talent. Don't want to take anything away from him. He's potentially the best in the world, but that's the key word, potentially. He still hasn't beaten a world-class operator. And I'm not being wise after the event, and none of us are being wise after the event. We said all this before. We said this before Martin. We said this before Breazeale. Martin was probably like the most fortunate world heavyweight champion in history, and he was just looking to cash out his title to the highest bidder. Last night Breazeale was a guy with no proven track record, aside from getting a gift decision against Cassie, who's just a trial horse. He got battered around the ring by Mansour, who's ancient, and if it wasn't for Mansour biting through his tongue, who knows, he probably would have won that fight. People, it's just the hyperbole and just the hype that I just can't. It's frustrating in regards to Joshua. I mean, people are saying he's going to walk through Fury, he's going to walk through Parker. I mean, on the basis of what evidence? He still has yet to be the world class operator, and Breazeale, as I said, tough game, but absolutely terrible from a technique standpoint. He looked like he hadn't a clue what he was doing in there. And I don't want to be disrespectful because as I said, he was very, very tough, and he showed some beard in him. But it's time now Joshua steps up. The Parker fight should be next, but I heard an interview with Barry Hearn today, and that doesn't seem like that's going to be the case.
Don't take any notice of what Barry says.
Well, he's with Matchroom, isn't he? He's what? You speak to some people, he's supposed to be the head guy at Matchroom.
No, Eddie's the man. Eddie's the man for the boxing.
I mean, Takam. I heard Takam's name being mentioned around.
He's just
today.
been beat though, the lad.
That's the thing. You see, Takam got beat by Parker. Why not fight Parker?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just.
I think the Parker fight will basically come down to his team. That basically his promoter's called Dooku or something like that. I think they're trying to cash in as much as possible before they put him into the Joshua fight. Actually.
What do you reckon? They're trying to get one more fight back home?
Yeah, possibly, because if I was reading, I forget the guy's name just now, but he was actually even backed by an old businessman as well, and he ended up falling out with Duco's as well, and so the boy ended up pulling out his finance and that, and the Duco's just went with Parker and just tried to kind of get fights all over the place, so I don't know. I don't think that fight will happen anytime soon.
But people slated Parker on Twitter and on various forums after the Takam victory. But that victory easily eclipses what Joshua has done thus far in his career.
Yep.
As I said on here after Parker's win, I think his defense is too open for Joshua. I think that his defense is just asking for trouble against a guy like Joshua, especially at straight right. I can just see him crashing down on Parker. But
do you rate his power, Dave?
What's that?
Do you rate his power?
Parker's power.
I'm not sold myself. Like,
I mean that the Takam was a big step up.
He did rock him though a couple of times.
He did rock him. One thing about Parker, and I did say it on here the day after the fight, he does pick some lovely punches. Now whether he's got natural one punch concussive power, I'm not as Randy was saying. I'm not sure about that, but. He does pick some nice shots. I mean, he's a real. I think he's a real test for Joshua. But at the same time, ultimately, if that fight did happen, I think his defense would let him down unless he works in it between now and then. But
the thing is, though, there ain't that many people out there. We've got the guys tied up with the Panamanians. Obviously, Fury and Klitschko. God knows what's happening there.
What's the Vern story? What's his story? Is he not? Is he inactive? Is he?
He's just inactive and fat, really.
Yeah.
Povetkin's a drugger. Wilder's fighting Big Nipple. There's not actually that many options out there.
But are the IBF going to force this Parker issue then? I mean, they
Not
are
anytime soon, no.
stringent.
No.
Not till December.
Right.
Well, I mean, they had Showtime had Wilder in studio, didn't they? I mean, I presume was that to hype up a potential fight between them two? Why
Yeah,
can't they fight why can't they fight each other down the line?
Well,
That's
hopefully
a
they
good
will.
point. The
You know,
Parker fight, though.
I mean, people go on about Joshua only having 16, 17 fights, but he's won a world title.
Yeah.
It's about
Exactly.
it's about time. It's about time you stepped up. You can't have continue fighting guys like that last night. And as I said, we're not being wise after the event. Everyone said Breazeale was rubbish beforehand.
Yeah,
Who's got the IBF rankings?
The thing was that I remember at the time that the IBF, I was just going to mention Adam, the IBF rankings at the time, he had nobody who could really fight apart from Breazeale, because I think Doufus he'd beat Helenius, I think. Glaskov was injured. Takam, as you say, just been beat.
They had
Chisora
in there as well.
Chisora was getting handled. Charles Martin obviously he just destroyed. So you really got Jarrell Miller, who I think he's claiming he's actually, but they claim he dropped him or he actually hurt him in sparring or something. So maybe that's a potential fight. And some people actually think the Jarrell Miller fight actually will happen next, because was it you, Kurt, that mentioned he's maybe give away options with the Heyman fighters?
Oh, he probably has, yeah.
Kurt said that, but I don't think there's any evidence to say that. I think the reason they picked Breazeale because it was going to be on Showtime. He was American and he was unbeaten. That was the reason why they chose the fight. I just think that the Parker fight, for some reason, they just seem really quite. I don't know. Well, not quite on it, but obviously they wanted to do the Dillian White rematch, and they're not going to be able to do that now because of how absolutely awful I thought Dillian White looked.
Terrible.
So they can't. That's a hard sell right
They
now.
wanted that, Paul. You can just see it now. You can see the slow motion of round 2 and Jim Watt getting excited and no, we shall decide this. I could just see the promo myself.
They'll still sell it. They'll still sell it.
He was crap. He was terrible though last night.
They'll still find a way to sell it. Oh yeah, he was awful last night, but they'll still find a way to sell it.
I want to see the Parker fight, Kurt, to be honest with you, because a lot of people putting on Twitter last night, oh, there's no point. I actually saw people putting, there's no point in the Parker fight, sure, after we saw him last time, he'd just get knocked out. But like Dave Lee said, Takam is a step up from anything Joshua's fought. Joshua, nobody has hit him. I mean, Parker might not be the greatest, but he has a bit of speed about him and a bit of power, and he can pick his shots. Even if he gasses late on, for the first 3 or 4 rounds, Parker's going to present Joshua, Kurt, with something that he has never seen before. There's an actual chance someone is going to hit him really hard since the Dillian White fight. That's what Parker brings to the table. There is genuine, a live body element to it.
It's the same kind of thing we heard from Mayweather fans and Roy Jones fans. There's no point in fighting him, that guy. He'd beat him anyway, or he doesn't offer anything. Well, how do we know unless he fights him? I mean, I still say, how good is Anthony Joshua? He's fast. He punches in combinations well. But he's only ever been hit back once, and that was against Dillian White. Now, say what you want about him, but Dillian White, once he never fell over in the first punch like Gary Cornish or Charles Martin, he gave him a bit of trouble. The problem with that guy last night was he just didn't have no punch whatsoever. He's got no power. And, Dillian White had a bit of punch to him, and he could, hurt AJ, and I don't think that guy could. And there was no threat at all. There was just, he could do what he wanted. He was playing with him. And it's just, that guy, I heard Eddie Hearn said they were looking at Andy Ruiz Jr., but he was too fat. But this guy had a Homer Simpson on his belly himself. I mean, he's not exactly a body beautiful himself. And at least Andy Ruiz has got some fast hands, and he's a much better fighter than this guy. That guy was terrible. But, he was tough, and I think the best you can hope for when someone like Breazeale goes in there is that he's going to offer resistance, because he isn't going to, win the fight. He isn't going to really, cause any moments, that get you off your seat. But you can try and take Joshua in rounds and maybe see what the gas tank's like. But when he can do what he wants, it's not really going to be troubled. So, they won't fight Parker next. I think they're going to milk this title for as long as possible. It's not that they're afraid of Parker or anything, but I just think they want to, fill the coffers up on these pay-per-views. I can see David Price getting a fight. I can see the Dillian White rematch will definitely happen. I don't see how it won't, to be honest. It's an easy sell. British fight fans, they're sheep. You know, Eddie Hearn, you know, says about pay-per-view, and they're all barring together, and they'll all pay for it. I mean, you get a grudge match, and that's it. David Price is talking a lot, saying he wants to fight, and you know, he's back to his best wherever that was when he was at his best. I mean, forget that he got destroyed by Turkish kebab owner in his last fight or the fight before. That'll be forgotten. You know, we saw with Eubank, they make out he's the, you know, this fantastic fighter, and they don't even mention he's lost to Billy Joe Saunders. So I think that Sky can just wipe out a lot of these things and just push these fights. And I think David Price, Dillian White, I think these two guys are, in my opinion, I think we'll see those fights.
No, I agree with you, Kurt. I think one of your points there was actually quite true whenever you said about White hitting him. White really did only hit him and hurt him once, and that was the thing. He's only ever been hit and hurt once. We need to see him hit on a sustained basis.
That's the thing, Steve. That's the thing. When White actually hurt him, he was actually hurt himself at the time. He couldn't really get his feet under him when he tried to follow it up.
Yeah, exactly. And
they're not meant.
Who does that again in the 6th round, and the 7th round, and the 8th round? How's he going to respond to that? You know.
But you can make the argument that they're not meant to get hurt. I mean, heavyweights, it's a different game. You know, if a heavyweight gets caught on the chin, a lot of the time that's it. You know, the heavyweights don't often take lots of sustained clear punches. And I think if we're criticising Joshua because he's not being punched, I don't know. It just seems a bit strange to me. Obviously, you want to see him in with guys who are going to throw back. But you could almost make a case for, you know, if he fights Josie Parker, which from what they've always said, it's Parker's side that aren't in a rush to make that fight, and then he knocked Parker out, would we say, oh, that Parker wasn't interested in throwing punches? They're a bit damned if they do, damned if they don't. I just think they can't afford to milk the title, but the idea that, you know, if they put him in with a big puncher, that automatically means that big puncher's going to land on him and we're going to see him tested. If Joshua does his career right, he never gets punched on the chin. He never gets put down and has to come back from adversity.
You can't even have the likes of Barry and Eddie Hearn telling the world that he is the #1 heavyweight on the fucking planet, fighting dross like that. He's got to step up and fight the likes of Fury or fucking Deontay Wilder. He's got to do it eventually. I mean, he can't keep fucking fighting this trash.
Paul, sorry, don't misunderstand me. It's a level of threat. It's a question of threat that I want to see. That's all. Yeah. It's like Breazeale last night, like you say. If he had landed on Joshua, did we really think that there was a danger he was going to really hurt him? Did he ever look like he was going to land on him? Whenever he threw his punches, he was so slow. You could tell that there was a real minimal chance he was even going to be able to reach Joshua. I want that threat of opponent.
And not only that, Steve. I mean, what did we learn last night from that victory? I mean, Breazeale was a sitting duck. I mean, on what evidence of that fight could Joshua beat a Tyson Fury, who's you know, for all his flaws and, you know, psychological issues, he's got good lateral movement, and, you know, I mean, Vlad couldn't pin him down. He's one of the most accurate punchers of the last 10, 20 years in the heavyweight division. You know, so. I mean, I think people are getting carried away with the speed and the power. I mean, as Andy said, he's fighting some right dross, and he hasn't stepped. It's about time he stepped up. You know, there's no body of evidence thus far to support that Joshua wipes the floor with Fury, which is what I've been seeing last night, and not just from casuals. You know, good seasoned boxing guys seem to be getting carried away with Joshua. You know.
So you're right, Dave. And then in 2019, when Fury's back from his ban, we'll get to see that fight.
I want some excitement. That's all. If we put him in the ring with, say, someone like a Luis Ortiz, I just would think to myself, right, there's a genuine danger here. Two good fighters. You know, there's just a genuine threat of a fight. You're going into a fight thinking this is interesting. You know, we're waiting to see something here. We knew what was going to happen last night.
I've got a question, by the way. Who's Luis Ortiz? Because nobody's calling him out. I know that for a fucking fact.
But he's tied up though, isn't he?
He might be shit.
He's got Houston off, but you know, at the end of the day, he's holding that fake WBA title, so you just dump it and just go for the AJ fight.
And in fairness, though, I do like Ortiz, big fan, but he ain't a big name, is he? He ain't even on the radar.
No.
He really ain't.
What was Breazeale like? What was Charles Martin?
He was American. If you're undefeated and American, you've got a chance of fighting AJ.
He's getting the big build up in America.
Well,
Luis Ortiz best wins at heavyweight.
What they're doing, I can understand to a point what they're doing, but I still don't like it. But I can understand it from a.
Yeah, this is Eddie Hearn's golden goose. You got to remember.
Yeah, I know.
Depends how confident he is. If this guy is really confident that Anthony Joshua destroys David Haye, destroys Tyson Fury, destroys Vladimir Klitschko, all these guys, we'll see the fights. If he's not, he's just going to keep milking it all. The fact is, they got easy fights to sell with David Haye. David Haye was commentating last night. He'll wipe the floor with Shannon Briggs. That's an easy stadium fight. We all know Hearn loves these British domestic stadium fights, these big pay-per-view fights. Let's see how confident he is, because I tell you what, you can say what about Haye. He's going to give Joshua something he's never seen before. He's fast.
I think Haye gives him loads of problems.
Yeah.
So let's see how, if he's confident, he'll make that fight. But with Hearn, I don't think I don't think he's that confident at the moment. He knows that AJ's still pretty raw. He's not been a professional long. He's not even been boxing long. Yeah, he's got a title, but he hasn't got a title now. He's got no excuses. But I think Hearn knows himself that he's not ready for those guys. Just in case. I mean, it weren't long ago David Price was getting the same kind of treatment. These guys going to be dominating for years, and then as soon as he got put in a step too far, he got exposed badly.
Yeah, I'm assessing Joshua off his future prospects now, in all fairness. I'll give him a pass on the Martin fight. Didn't like the way it came off, but I'll give him a pass. I'll even give him a pass for the Breazeale fight. But from now on, well, it's going to have to be from the next fight on, isn't it, really? Because I don't know who they're going to put him in with in November. It has to be decent people. It has to be someone with a genuine danger about him. You can't go in with Breazeale knowing that he's not going to do anything. That is not competitive boxing, knowing that the other guy is incapable of causing any problems. That's not right. Anyway, any final comments before we move on to the undercard?
Yeah, Steve, they alluded to last night about it was a poor build-up, training camp, etc. Firstly, I'm not surprised. I've said it a number of times that who's actually training Joshua? Is he training himself? Is at Sheffield? Is in London with his mates, and then he's with Tony Sims in Essex.
Said he was very tired, didn't he, Adam, or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get that at all. Sorry to interrupt. Eddie Hearn mentioned that a few times, that Joshua's burnt out. I mean, he's had, leaving aside the media obligations with it, which is to be expected. I mean, he's had 2 fights this year, which weren't exactly taxing. I mean, I think it's twofold. It's the media obligations. He's got deals with Lucas Aiden Beats signed this week. Obviously, he's the star man for Sky and / Matchroom. So that's one side of it. But yeah, the other side of it, I'm still questioning who trains Anthony Joshua. He's back in the gym today with his mates. I'm on Snapchat. He's back in the gym.
Thing is though, he's been living at the Hilton in Sheffield for the last few weeks.
My cracking.
Yeah, he's up there, and it's obviously he either needs to buy a house in Sheffield, move up there, either Ricky Burns obviously coming down to train in London when he's obviously fighting from Scotland, or he needs to just come to the fact that there's obviously the reason why he has to have Sims in his corner. But like I said, I didn't hear the instruction. Obviously, you guys watching on TV, what were the instructions like? Did there seem to be much of a connect between trainer and fighter or not?
Oh, I thought there was one occasion.
Me and you follow him on Snapchat and all that kind of stuff, and Instagram, and he's always bad bastards. He's always at the Olympic Committee, isn't he? He's always at the Olympic Training Centre.
Yeah.
I never see him in Sims's gym in Essex.
Well, only for promos. There was one last night where he was in the corner after his nose got blooded. I think it might have been the 5th or 6th. And not Sims, but the assistant was trying to wipe his nose, and he turned his face away 2 or 3 times from him, and I think he ended up telling him no. So they looked a bit of disharmony there anyway.
I can already hear the excuses coming from Paul and Adam for when he loses.
They're not excuses. Well, it's facts. I've been questioning for a long time before he beat Charles Martin who is training Anthony Joshua, and it's a problem waiting to happen. I've called it months ago.
Yeah, but Hearn is talking about burnout. I'm not buying that for a second. Burnout, from two fights this year.
But he said Oscar
De La Hoya had 5 fights back in '97, and he was fighting guys like Whitaker and Camacho that year. I mean, you're trying to tell me Joshua's burnt out from fighting fucking Breazeale and Charles Martin? Come on.
I think it's the white rematch as well. Fucking hell.
It's the length. I think it's a combination of a few things. Like I said, it's the length of the training camps he's been in. Obviously, it's been a lot of travel because of 2 things. 1, he's travelling away from where he lives, and 2, the fact that all these endorsements and all these things and all these TV shows and everything else, which other fighters aren't having to do. But for me, it's an easy excuse to make. And what they're doing now is he's going to have probably 5 months, probably the first week of December before he fights again. So if he is in that situation, then he's got to take a few weeks out and then go again. And they can't use fatigue as an excuse if he's fighting maximum 3 times a year. I don't buy that. And I don't think other fighters will. I think he should probably fight more, but unfortunately, because he's tied into this stupid pay-per-view situation, he won't, and we'll get 3 a year maximum out of him.
Hey, to Dave, you joined us on the call. Do you think poor Joshua's burnt out, or what's the story here?
Well, who would have thought we'd spend over half an hour talking about a fight with Eubank-Jr involved? I mean, who cares? This is so boring. Get on to, let's talk about Joshua, make him relevant when he actually becomes relevant. He's got a paper belt, that's it. He's beat a couple good guys, decent guys at best. There are plenty of better heavyweights than him out there, at least as far as their achievements go. So until he proves that to us, let's just forget about him. Fuck him.
All right then, Dave, that's a nice segue onto the undercard. Very eloquently put there, thanks very much. I don't know how much of the undercard you saw, actually, Hater Dave. Did you see anything at all?
No, I didn't see anything at all this weekend. I was driving around the state and the country, so yeah, I've seen nothing.
Okay, right, well, we had Eubank getting rid of Mr. Doran, we had Murray and Groves, and you know what, just take it away. What do you want to discuss on the undercard? Everything, nothing? Tell me what your overriding feelings were.
Well, to be honest, mate, I went to my bed for an hour. I wasn't until my phone was beeping off, obviously, to you guys on the messenger and stuff, and I found out that Hibbert got stopped. I think he'd got badly cut against that Andre Scarpa. So I watched Eubank against Doran, pretty pathetic. You know, it was what it was, I suppose, but you know, they say that Doran is actually, or Doran, he's a part-time fighter. So, you know, what the hell did Eubank learn from that fight last night? Other than just taking another step closer to winning the British title outright. Shocking fight. Triple G next. Okay, take the fight, mate. You know, there's rumours going about he's asking for a king's ransom to take the fight. So not entirely sure if it's going to happen. I guess we'll find out this week, one way or the other. After everything that they've stated in the past and up to this point now, Eddie Hearn, you know, hate him or love him or hate him, I think he seems to have got this fight, you know, on the plate for him. Yeah. It's now up to him to step up and sign the papers and take the fight, because they have talked shit for years, and I want to see if this guy is the goods. I gave him a bit of leeway after the Saunders performance, to some regard to the Tudorov performance as well. But if you're talking all this shit, then it's now time to step up and show us if you're legit or no. And you know what? See if he gets beat and he actually puts up a good performance, then he'll come out of that fight, you know, as long as he doesn't get damaged, which I think he will. As long as he puts up a good performance and comes out the other end unscathed, then you can say he's done his best. But I really don't think he's going to cope with Triple G whatsoever. I mean, Triple G will just jab him all night long and then he just step in behind. And if he decides to throw that lead right uppercut, Triple G's just going to ice him with a left hook, and it's going to be brutal to see. His balance is pretty poor as well last night. He was throwing punches all over the place. So they're obviously that. Groves against Murray. Fair play to Murray. You know, I did think at one point I thought he was going to get pulled out by Oliver Harrison, but he dug in, came back strong. I think it was the 10th. He was hurt a few times. I think Groves' legit size at the weight was a bit more telling factor. But I don't know if it was just me. I thought Groves actually looked shit last night. I don't know if it's just me or what, but I didn't actually kind of think this is a guy who is an elite 168 fighter anymore. I think he's got problems with the weight. He's trying to basically kind of think his way through a 12-round fight. He doesn't want to gas himself out. And there's actually no shock as well as he's actually trying to target the Panamanian champion just now. I mean, he got owned against Jack. Obviously, we know what happened with Froch. I think Tudorov is apparently meant to be holding the title, but I think that Di Carlis fella is actually holding another part of it. He's not going to fight Ramirez. The Gale fight seems way in the distance, so obviously he's going to try and get, the weakest champion, so to speak. As you says last night, Steve, as well, I think you're pretty much spot on. For any of those two not to pick up a world title in this era, there's something far wrong, and it's no luck. It's just probably not good enough.
Yeah, Paul, Andy was laying out the situation there. I think Freelance Foz was laying out last night something to do with the super middleweight title. Sturm, he had the drug issues, didn't he? Didn't he have to drop it? And then Chudinov jumps in. I don't even understand the politics, I'll be honest. I'm not even going to even attempt to understand what's going on here. Please help me.
Right, yeah, so it will be Chudinov is the fight that they'll be targeting. I think obviously Sturm had what was the WBA super belt. The drug ban, which hasn't actually gone into effect yet because I think it's still up for appeal, means that he still technically holds the title, but he won't be able to defend it. So Shudanov, in WBA logic, he won't get upgraded to Super Champ. But Panamanian logic, should I say? I don't know if that rule's still in force. Panamanian logic says he won't get upgraded, and if Groves does go that route, and he will go that route, it will be for what we now know as the regular title, or the WBA World title, as they call it. It makes total sense for me to Groves to go.
Sturm holds the super title, and DeCarlis holds the regular title. He was the one that beat that Feigen boots.
Yep, Sturm had it, wasn't it? And then he was but he got not Sturm.
Sturm had 2 fights against Chudinov. He lost the super title to Chudinov. But in the interim period as well, as DeCarlis and Feigen boots also had 2 fights for the regular title.
Yeah, so in theory, Shudanov should get the super belt back if the ban is enforced. In theory. Fucking it's confusing, isn't it, in WBA? Anyway, in terms of George Groves, that's the reason why he should definitely go that route for me. Is I do really like George Groves. Been a fan of Groves for a very long time. I was saying on Twitter last night when I saw him on one of the David Haye undercards live against Adamu, and thinking this guy will win a world title one day. And it's such a strange situation that he's found himself that he hasn't. I think he needs to get over the mental side of it. I think if he targets the weakest champion, which I suppose if you look at that division, you'd have to say that that certainly would be the case in the WBA, then I think more power to him. I think he needs to get over that before he goes in with another James DeGale rematch or a Badu Jack rematch. I sort of saw where Andy was coming from. I thought the Grove started quite slowly. I think there was a couple of moments where he wasn't really throwing shots as much as pushing them. Oh, all right.
Who's that?
I think it was Adam.
Adam.
Can you all hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
No,
sorry. Yeah, so there was points when he was throwing punches, like I said, but he seemed to be pushing them rather than throwing them with any particular power. But I thought, during the middle rounds and second half of the fight, he really warmed into it. I think he knows when he's in with someone like Martin Murray, who's very durable, but Murray's never going to be, he's never going to really throw anything damaging in return. Murray, we've seen in the last couple of fights, he really has slowed down, and obviously super middleweight, the fights he's had, 8-rounders against, bin men and people like that, they're not going to prepare him for this sort of level of a fight. I thought Groves obviously deserved to take it very wide. My scorecard was similar, and I really want to see him get a world title shot. I really want to see him in big fights, because I think if he doesn't win a world title, it's such a waste. After watching that fight yesterday, I watched Froch Groves 1 again, one of my favourite fights to watch. And the guy in the first 6 rounds of that fight looked like an absolute elite 168 pounder. And for one reason or another, through partly his own fault, his own situation he's found himself in, and the fact that he's been beaten by 2 guys who on the night were better in Froch and then back in with Jack, he hasn't quite got there yet, but I think he will. I think he's got plenty of time on his side. I'm not sure if he has plenty of time at 168. I think definitely the way he makes weight, he may have to look at moving up. And the thoughts of him going in against some of the heavyweight champions, I was about to say, I'm not a big fan of the idea of him going against that.
Groves at 168 has got a poor gas tank as it is, but 175 is a different kettle of fish. That's big guys he's up there up against me. Groves is a big guy for that weight as it is, but light heavyweight, I think he's caught in between the 2 divisions actually.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, he has to make something happen from now, and it needs to happen soon. But I really think he can. Like I said, I know not everyone on the pod's a big fan of George Groves, but like I said, I am, and I hope it happens.
You right, Andy? Someone just tread on your foot?
He just said that all of us are fucking George Groves fans. Big George Groves fans, he said.
No, I said none of you. I know there's a few who aren't big George. That noise was probably Adam having a stroke in the background because he hates George Groves. But no, I know. So not everyone is a George Groves fan, and I understand why, because of the way he carries himself. It was little things like Shane McGuigan in the ring after the fight when Hearn walked past him and Shane turned around and just mouthed the word wanker. There's obviously what I quite like about Groves, and what people who don't like Matchroom should like, is he's on all these Sky shows because Sky want him on, not because Hearn wants him on.
That's true.
And I think that's a positive thing.
Kurt, just looking at your opinions on the undercard here, just going back to Eubank, actually, Andy brought up the point, and that we had a question in from Jose Aldo's Revenge on Twitter, which was quite interesting. I don't know if you have the answers to this. He says, in the press conference, Eubank Sr. referred to Sky not wanting to make the Triple G fight. So is it money and pay-per-view that's the hurdle, or is it the Eubank's posturing? No, I'm not blaming Eddie for this one, surprisingly. What do you think?
Well, I think from Hearn's point of view, he'd love to make this fight. I think, he knows that the Eubank's not really loyal to him like some of the other fighters are. They're happy to bounce around to different networks, different promoters. They're happy to go anywhere. And I think he knows that Golovkin is a big name, and wherever they put that fight over here, people would come to watch Golovkin. And it's not he hasn't got the same relationship as he has with if you think of his time with Darren Barker or with Carl Froch. I think if he saw Eubank get beat, well, he still put on a big show with Gennady Golovkin. So I think he wants to make that fight. I don't really buy Chris Eubank Senior's seemingly, he wants to make this fight. I don't see that myself. I think Eubank Jr will take the fight. I think he genuinely believes, he's a bit deluded that he's, how great he is and he can beat Golovkin. But I think the dad, no matter what you think of him, he's quite smart. And he knows, he'll know his own limitations when he was in his career, and he knew the guys to stay away from. And this is his son, and I think he knows. Nothing wrong with the fight. I mean, Junior's always in good fights, and it'll be a fun fight, and I think he'd have a bit of success at the start with Golovkin. But the thing is, it's not really the fight to take now for him. If you think of it down the line, maybe you could see him having a much better chance, and I think Senior will know this. So I just think they'll just use all these excuses. They say they'll call him out, and then the fight won't happen, and they'll just blame Golovkin, and then some people will believe it, I reckon. But Senior never really. If you look at his own career, he was happy, just fighting, taking the money against easy options. I don't really see him with his son why he would want to change it. And we know that Junior doesn't have any say. Whatever Senior says, Junior has to do. And he fought Billy Joe Saunders. That was a big step up for him. But Billy Joe Saunders was never going to damage him badly. It was never going to be a terrible beating. If he lost, he lost. But Billy Joe's not going to hurt you. The thought of going in with Golovkin now, it's a really dangerous fight for him, because he's still, like I said, he hasn't been exactly in boxing his whole career, his whole life either. He's turned it quite late, and he's obviously got a lot of natural talent. And I remember when I saw him on his debut and his first few fights, I wasn't impressed. I thought if he took the Eubank name away, no one would be hyping this guy up at all. But I think the last couple of years he's really improved, and like I said, that's why down the line I could see him having much better chances against some of these guys. But right now I just think it'd be a mistake for them. But I think he's a good fight, and we're not going to see the Canelo fight, so why not see Golovkin come over here and fight Eubank? I think it's bad news for the Eubanks, to be honest.
It's going to get messy, I think, this week, because Hearn will claim, and with good substance, that he's delivered it in terms of venue and deal done and date done, whatever. Then the Eubanks will squiggle their way out of it, and then they'll be blaming each other. I think it'll be quite a fun week.
Because the thing is with Eddie, though, Adam, there's obviously no love lost between the Eubanks and Hearn. The Eubanks are notoriously difficult to deal with. Frank said that. Richard Maynard said that when he left. They're really, really difficult to deal with. Eddie knows that himself, but he's got a good commodity there. So putting him in a Triple G fight is a win-win for Eddie. If he's going to be pulling off the big cash on the back of this, if Eubank loses or whatever happens, he knows that they could disappear at any point, the contracts or whatever. He's not a stable commodity for Hearn anyway, so he can afford to make these matches. So he's more than happy to put Eubank in a fight like this.
I think Eddie trying to make this fight as well, especially on UK soil, it would impress the Yanks. I know that Golovkin isn't with Uncle Al, but you could get the other guys on there that are often on Golovkin cards. It could be quite an international show and impress both sides of the pond, really, from a matchroom point of view.
Dave Lee, there was a question from Tony Nelson came in on Twitter earlier, which I thought was a really good one, a really interesting one. He asked, who would Eubank spar to prepare for someone like Triple G? I'm putting you on the spot here, but is any names that you, or if not any of the other guys, could think of? Would you bring in someone like a Chudinov, one of those two? Or, who on earth could you get in to sort of replicate that type of style?
Well, to prepare against someone like Golovkin, who would you get in? The fight itself still, it's intriguing in a Canelo can type of way, because I can't see how on earth Junior can win this fight. Look, fair play to Junior. I'll always applaud fighters for seeking out the best challenges. So from that standpoint, definitely fair play to Junior. But from a technical standpoint, he's just way out of his depth here. I mean, it's all well and good having a relaxed style and loose defense against the Tom Dorans of this world, but against Golovkin, ugh, it's bad news. As Andy said, his balance is rotten, and in general, there's just a lot of fundamental flaws there. Which Golovkin, I mean, leaving aside Golovkin's power, it often gets forgotten that Golovkin, technically, is very, very good, and there's a lot of flaws that there's a lot of things that Eubank does wrong, and I can just see Golovkin exploit every mistake Eubank makes. Golovkin is going to make him pay tenfold.
Look at the way he cuts the ring off, Dave. The way he moves.
The footwork, the way he cuts off the ring, the jab. I mean, the jab busted up Lemieux. It's going to be a long and painful night for, maybe not even long, but it's going to be a painful night for Junior if that fight comes off. Could be. As Kurt was saying, it could be fun while it lasts. But there's no way on earth Junior can beat Golovkin. No way.
I think the problem with Eubank Jr. is he puts too much stock into his chin. His father had a fantastic chin. He looks like he's got a good chin. I remember Spike landing about 3 right hands right on the button, and he didn't budge. And Spike, whatever you think about him, he can punch. But I think he puts too much stock in that. I remember reading ages ago now, not long after he turned pro, that his dad sent him to America and he was sparring with cruiserweights and heavyweights, and they was really, hitting him with everything, and he got beaten up, but he never was knocked out or he never was hurt, and that's when he knew that his chin could get him through, and that's why he would never worry about fighting anyone. But like Dave said, you're not going in there with just a guy who's just a slugger who, once he punches, you can't get you out there. He's just going to be clueless and have no idea. He's just going to stand there like a fucking mummy just walking forward with his hands up. Golovkin has a massive amateur background. He's won nearly everything. If he can't get you out there, it's not like he's going to start to panic or anything. He's happy to just beat you up, bust your face up with a jab, hit you with the left hooks, hit you everywhere, and he'll just keep doing that. And, if we saw with Martin Murray, I mean, a big tough guy at middleweight, Golovkin never panicked. Golovkin just battered him and, basically ended Martin's career, really. I mean, we saw in the Groves fight, he looked terrible in that fight. And it weren't that Groves was fantastic, although he boxed well, I thought, but he didn't have nothing for him. And I think, that's the worst thing for someone going rounds with Golovkin or any puncher. I think it's better to get just knocked out than go like 10, 11 rounds with a guy who's just going to beat you up to, pillar to post. And I think with Eubank, that could be the case because his chin does look good, and but I don't think it's such a good thing to have a great chin against someone like Golovkin. I mean, we saw with James Toney, a guy who's basically, you can't knock him out. He's going 12 rounds every single fight. He's had 70-odd fights, and look at the way he speaks now. And that's the biggest problem, I think.
Well, it just comes down to levels. I mean, Kurt, you mentioned Spike O'Sullivan there. I mean, he shipped a lot of shots in that fight. And, I no disrespect Spike, I'm quite fond of him, but, this is a guy who lost every second of every round against Billy Joe Saunders, got a gift decision against faded Matthew Hall, and and Eubank, he had his hands full with Spike early on. I don't care what anyone says, and now he's going from that level to fighting one of the premier boxers on the planet in any weight division. It's not going to end well for Junior. But as I said, look, fair play to him. If that fight comes off, he's fighting the guy who a lot of people are running from.
Dave, hey to Dave. Are you back with us, Dave? I think Hey to Dave's disappeared. He's been consumed in a pit of his own hate. He was on fire on Friday night, wasn't he, Andy, with the old Tyson Fury pod there?
Hey, what's that, mate? You want to go into Tyson Fury? You want to leave it until we discuss the other fights?
We'll get the other fights out of the way first, and then we'll go on to Tyson Fury. And I'll tell you what, Fury's just a case, isn't he? Things are happening every day. But we'll get the fight reviews out of the way first. In fact, Andy, if you want to jump in, we don't have to go long on these. We'll do China in a bit, but I'm pretty short, guys. Don't feel you have to go on about these things. But Barclays Centre, Brooklyn. I'll be in the Barclays Centre, hopefully all being well at the end of next month for Frampton Santa Cruz. But Keith Thurman got the job done against Sean Porter last night. Wins for Jarrett Heard and Regis Prograis as well. Not really too fussed about them boyos. Yeah, Andy, Thurman-Porter. I picked Porter by knockout. Got that one wrong, didn't I? He seemed to do okay from what I saw. I only saw the PBC or Showtime highlights, whoever put them up on YouTube. Didn't see the full fight. Thurman, I've just gone a bit cool on him, to be honest. I think he's been out the ring too long. He's hasn't backed up his statements. He's He just doesn't. He's not impressing me now. I'm off the Thurman bandwagon if I even was on at all. But he beat Porter, which is a good solid win, and he's still undefeated. So I can't shit on him too much.
Yep, good fight, mate. I know a few years are kind of getting pissed off with the sport, but that kind of somewhat rekindled it again last night. Just that you have two top 10 guys actually delivering it for a change, and they did deliver actually, because there was times in that fight. I think everybody delivered actually. Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, the judges, the referee, even the fans, they fucking delivered. The referee, they had no much to do apart from break them up a couple of times. The scorecards, 115, 113 thrice. I had it 116, 112 myself to Thurman. I've seen some wider scorecards. Some people have said that they've even had Porter winning the fight, and some were calling it a robbery. I think it was more like a case of what you fancied, but I just thought that Thurman, when he did land, it was cleaner, it was heavier shots. He did have to do it off the back foot a couple of times, but at the same time, we kind of thought that Porter would be on the front foot the whole fight. He was on the front foot a fair number of times, but Thurman, fair play to him, he had him backing up. I think we did think that Thurman's glassed the body. He was hurt at least once there. Porter was badly staggered early in the fight, but he did well when he hung on. He was hurt a couple of times. It was just an all-round great fight. I know some of the scorecards and stuff. It was that kind of fight. It was more like what you liked. Did you like Thurman and his cleaner boxing fight off the back foot, or did you just like the natural aggression of Porter? Because I think the judges, they couldn't even decide, who won which round sometimes. Some people might have had like Thurman winning the first round and two had Porter winning the first round. It was just one of the type of fights, just what you liked. As I say, I liked what Thurman did. Jabbed well. He took his licks, gave it back. He was countering shots. I just think maybe with him being slightly naturally bigger guy, his shots were more telling. I was kind of worried myself actually when I saw the weigh-in, because it looked like it was a bad cut. At the weight, he looked drawn. He did look like very, very bad. And to be honest, Porter, even when he went down to fight Cloner at 144, he looked healthy. Again, he looked healthy, I thought, on the scales, and I just thought that maybe Thurman might gas late. But no, fair play to Thurman. He was even pushing the fight. Sometimes, as I say, Porter was kind of overpowering him a little bit on the ropes, and that's where Porter was having the kind of more success. But once that fight was in the middle of the ring and stuff, at mid-distance, I thought Thurman was pretty much the boss. It was just basically when Porter got inside, but he was smothering his work far, far too often. Porter just doesn't give himself the kind of punching leverage. So, great fight. It was good to see both fighters after the fight saying, showing a bit of respect. Obviously, they're friends, and Thurman's offering him a rematch. And I wouldn't be against a rematch. Unless Thurman's going to go up and fight some other guys. Let's hope he's active. Same with Porter and stuff, because that was a great fight. Well, it was a good fight. It was a fight of the year. Maybe no, but it's certainly up there as one of the better fights of 2016. And by fuck, have you been starved of that type of action?
Adam, Kurt, Andy was...
I really enjoyed it.
Andy was saying there about Porter. He does smother his work, and sometimes he's so novice-like. He's wide open. I mean, he gets into absolutely fantastic condition, and Ken Porter does a great job in that respect. But if Porter's going to really push on to the next level, quote unquote, does he have to find himself a more technically proficient trainer who's going to help him out, or is he never going to ditch Ken?
I don't think he's changeable now, to be honest. I think that is his style. But like you say though, he was the definition last night of smothering his work. He was ploughing in, and almost getting too close at times. And Thurman's trainer was telling him to keep moving, and he was. And I think Thurman set the tone early doors, because the first punch he landed, I think, was a left hook, and that was his most important punch really throughout the fight. It was just catching him when he came in with that left hook. Porter showed he's obviously got a good chin, because Thurman was hitting him with some flush shots, quite a few of them, but because he was on the back foot so much, they didn't have the full leverage in them, and I thought it was always going to points, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think Porter was in the round 7, 8, 9. I think Porter, that's where Porter really had a go, and he busted him up a little bit, draw blood, and was pushing him back to the ropes. But then Thurman finished it the classier of the two. I had it 8-4. I think that was fair. And anyone who thinks Porter's won that fight is not watching the right game, to be honest.
Dave Lee, Paul Edwards was asking on Twitter earlier, should Kell Brook have been ringside at that fight last night in America?
Kell Brook?
Fat bastard. Listen, there must be a lot of calories in spunk omelette, I'll tell you. Fucking hell.
He'd have to buy 2 seats on the plane, wouldn't he? to fit his fat arse.
Do you think he should have been diving into the ring at the end, trying to push and shove people?
He needs to get his name out there, doesn't he? I mean, I don't. What is going on with the Vargas fight, by the way?
They were waiting for the fixtures at one point, I heard, so they knew about Bramall Lane. I don't know anything beyond that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Brooke should be ringside calling out these guys, definitely getting his name out there, in the States where I don't know how widely known he is out there. Perhaps Dave the Hater, if he's still there, can tell us about that. But the fight itself, as the guys were saying, was excellent. I really enjoyed it. I think I undersold Porter a bit last week. He is crude, but he's so strong, and he must be a nightmare to fight against because he just charges at you, and he does smother his work, but he also smothers the other guy's work, and it must be very hard to fight him. But ultimately, Thurman rather picked some lovely shots, and that's what I scored the fight on, the cleaner work from Thurman. Some chin from Porter, though. I mean, he took some cracking shots. There was a few that buckled his legs, but he came charging right back at Thurman, and I scored at the exact same as Andy, 1-1-6, 1-1-2. Didn't have a problem with the score, and thought Thurman was a worthy winner. But yeah, excellent fight. It was a frantic pace, and that's what we want to see more of from boxing. Evenly matched fights with top level fighters in cracking fights like that. So yeah, good stuff.
Anybody else want to comment before we go on to China?
Quickly, I don't want to see a rematch. I want to see Thurman against him with Garcia or someone like that.
I agree with Adam on that. I thought Thurman looked good in that fight. I enjoy watching him. A lot of people seem to have completely switched off of Thurman after the Bundu performance, and when he didn't look like he was obviously going to knock everybody out. I think he's a much better boxer than people gave him credit for in his early stages. His left hook, or his left hand in general, is just a phenomenal punch. I thought Porter did better than I expected him, but I had Thurman to win on points in the prediction league because I thought that Porter would be durable, but Thurman is a better boxer than I think most people give him credit for. And yeah, I still like Danny Garcia, and no one else does, understandably. But I think Thurman, Danny Garcia at the Barclays makes total sense. And I tell you what, one thing, we slagged the PBC and have ridiculed it pretty much since its inception with good reason. If the PBC had been serving up fights like that since day dot, boxing in America will be doing absolutely amazing right now on free TV. We need far less Aussie strippers and far more fights like that.
And the crowd were really into it as well, which
Yeah.
made the fight, it's just good to see a crowd. Usually the American crowd, they're quiet or they're booing. I mean, I know there was some boos, but that was more sarcastic, I think, because Thurman went walking around for like 25 seconds, they booed. But I went with Porter on points. I mean, I just felt that, unlike Cal Brook, he wouldn't clinch. And I think Sean Porter's going to be an absolute nightmare for anyone. And if you don't clinch, you're going to be in for it. And I just felt, if you look at Thurman against Guerrero, he fades down the stretch, and would he be able to keep up the work rate? And I was impressed with Thurman myself because Porter was all over him. I think the question came in about, changing trainers. But I think what makes Porter so dangerous is how sloppy he is, because he's so unorthodox and awkward. I just think it's hard to gauge what he's going to do. I mean, he's so herky-jerky, he's left and right all the time, he's throwing winging shots, he's as strong as a bull, he's the strongest guy down at that weight, I'd say, and if you're not clinching him and you're not controlling him like that, you're going to be in him for a hell of a fight. I mean, we saw him walk through someone like Malignaggi, who was just torn apart, and I thought Thurman did well. He's got a punch on him, he's fast, I think he used his feet well at times. It was a close fight, I thought Thurman nicked it like 115, 113, but I think that was like his gut check. We haven't seen Thurman in a tough fight, I think. We talked about Joshua earlier. Thurman's another guy who got a lot of hype. It's going to be quiet now because he's been facing, guys like Bundu and like Guerrero, who's well past his best. He hasn't faced that gut check, and I think Sean Porter is the guy who gave him that gut check, and he passed it, and now he can move on. I think, although I'd like to see a rematch as well, I think obviously the most sense is a Danny Garcia fight, but Danny Gift, he's going to be after, Shot Berto, isn't he? That's who he's going to be after. He's not taking any challenge on. So I think we're more likely to see the rematch, and I've got no problem with it because it's a good fight. But I think Thurman would have far too much at that weight for Danny Garcia. I think he's regressed as a fighter, and I don't think he'd cope with Keith Thurman.
Anybody think that Porter could happen at some point? Think Cam would take that fight?
I think he'd take it, yeah. I don't know how he'd get on with it now.
Yeah, this is that.
Dave Lowback, do you want to talk about Thurman-Porter before we finish up, or are you even there? He's not there, guys.
He came on, said he hadn't watched any fights from the weekend, said, why are we talking about Joshua, and hung up.
He's entertaining his Asian family, he said. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening there.
Well, he could have helped us out with our final review, actually. In the Capital Gym in Beijing, China. We're not going to do anything too in-depth in here, just a couple of fights of note. Javier Fortuna got stopped by Jason Sosa in the 11th round. I saw a bit of this on Boxed Nation, actually, just the knockout. Fortuna tried to carry on, but I don't think he could have carried on, to be honest with you. And then Jun Ki Zhao, I hope I pronounced that right, got knocked out in the 12th round by Neymar Semeno.
Did you just make an order at a Chinese takeaway, Steve?
Have you seen the titles on the line? We had WBA World Super Featherweight in the main, then the vacant WBA Super Bantamweight, and then in a fight between Can Zhu and Corey McConnell, two household names, we had the WBA Oceania Super Featherweight title and WBA International Super Featherweight title. Does anybody want to talk about this card? Or I mean,
all I can say, mate, is I kind of rated Fortuna a wee bit, but I think he's a guy. I don't think he actually belongs up at that weight. I think he just needs to do everything possible to try and get back down to 126. Probably good to see Sermano get some sort of kind of recognition again. I know he's been he goes way back. I think I remember him getting beat off. Was it Moreno? I think he had 2 fights with Moreno, 2 close fights actually. So it's probably kind of good to see him get a kind of couple other paydays or whatever. Fortuna, as I said, I said to you, mate, I only seen the first 6 rounds. I think I've maybe seen the stoppage as well, but back to the drawing board for him. But no other comments to make, unfortunately.
Do you know what was quite funny though? I saw some people tweeting. I think one of the American sports writers was like something like justice for Sosa after coming so close in previous attempt. When obviously he won the fight fair and square, but when he fought Nicholas Walters, arguably lost 9 of the rounds and then somehow got a draw. But someone was making out like, after an unfortunate draw in his previous fight, he goes on the road and wins a world title. But I think it was. I was surprised to see Fortuna lose, to be fair, especially considering what I saw Sosa do against Walters. But maybe that just shows more about what Walters has got rather than what Sosa didn't have, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe it tells us a little bit more about why Walters isn't so keen to take the Lomachenko fight.
Possibly, yeah. I think that's a possible comparison to make. I think it's interesting, like I said, these China shows, because they've obviously got money, and if you're a champion at a smaller weight, you've got, and you're from a sort of South American or Central America, there's decent cash to be made over there. And I think that it's just a shame for China that they don't seem to be. They're getting shots for their guys, but their guys aren't winning, and they almost need some sort of breakout star. I thought Ik Yang had a really good chance, and then he didn't. And obviously, we all know that what Zhu Shiming doesn't have. It's again a point for going back to the Jager undercard. Cao Yifai knocked out a guy in no time at all that went the distance of Zhu Shiming in his last fight, and same guy that Andrew Selby had knocked out. China needs a big star for them to keep having these shows. But if you're an opponent, or if you've got a belt and you're rather unfashionable, it's definitely a place to go and defend your title.
They've got some big, massive fucking heavyweight dude. Like, what's his name? Like fucking Juan Long Kok or something like that. His name is
Dong.
Dong. Is it Dong? There's another one as well.
There's
There's a guy called Zhang. There's a guy called Zhang kicking around as well.
Yeah, Taishon Dong and Zhang are there too. But Dong's the massive one though. Zhang's like the 7-footer.
I bet he is.
But yeah, he's got a big dong. But yeah, that scene it's improving. But like I said, there just seems to be a lack of ability to get them over the line. They're ranking these guys. They're fighting for those daft Pan-Eurasia titles. But when it comes to the big stuff, they're just not seeming to be able to get it done yet. But I mean, if there's one thing you can say about China in general when it comes to things like sport, if they've got their heart set on it, they'll do it. And they're seeing that with football right now, and I think that if there's guys there that want to invest the money, I think they'll get their world champion at some point soon.
Right, guys, unless there's anything else, I think we'll leave China where it is and the fight reviews as well. we have a few Twitter and Facebook questions knocking about, but before we go on to them, I know the guys want to put to rest the Tyson Fury. I'm not sure exactly what you guys want to discuss in relation to Fury. There's so much every day. There seems to be a little bit more. I had an email came through earlier, press release from Hennessy Sports, basically refuting these Sunday Mirror allegations, these sort of vague allegations.
Yeah, they really put it to bed, mate, didn't they?
Yeah, I know, yeah. It says, we are baffled by today's story in the Sunday Mirror. Tyson Fury absolutely denies any allegation of doping. He looks forward to recovering from his injury and defending his titles against Vladimir Klitschko in October, in block capitals, end. So that's cleared that one up. We know about the ticket sales or lack of. We know about the injury. You know, as Kurt said, did Fat Mick step on Tyson's foot? We don't know exactly what happened there. He's dancing around over in France, apparently. Probably back on the beer. There's these funny steroid allegations coming out. Kurt, it's all going a bit weird, isn't it, for Tyson at the moment?
Well, it's not looking too good. I mean, you got these allegations, you got this terrible ankle injury that he can't fight, and yet he's in France dancing and getting drunk, and you know.
Jaegers, baby, Jaegers.
I mean, the guy's a big bloke and he's jumping around as if he ain't got a problem at all. So I just don't know, but I just can't see. I know some people have been crying like, you know, conspiracy, they're out to get Tyson, but it just seems unlikely that they're saying this about a guy, and especially in the time period as well, because they could have just said he failed, like, you know, recently, but they're saying he failed this long ago. I know people are saying like he wouldn't be kept quiet and all this, but you only got to look at someone like Tony Thompson, who fought David Price, who's knocked David Price out, failed a drugs test, was banned by the UK, and you know, 18-month ban he was given. Nothing was ever mentioned. He went on to fight 4 times all over the world. I think he fought Pulev in one of those fights. He fought in America against Ortiz, I think, as well. He fought 4 times. Then almost 2 years to the day after the Price fight, it came out. It was, you know, and David Price actually found out about it himself, that Tony Thompson had failed a drugs test and he'd been given a ban. By the time it came out, the ban was already served anyway. And also Enzo Maccarinelli, he was banned for taking some kind of weight stripper that he got out of a MMA magazine. He's given a 6-month ban, which is obviously pathetic in today's boxing world. But it wasn't until 4 months later, when the ban was near the end, that it came out that Enzo was busted, and he had to come out and make an apology. So I just think there is cases before this where it has been kept quiet because of, they claim like legal reason, you know, the Tyson's team, because obviously it's Huey as well, are like trying to fight this, so they can't really make any statements. I think the Mirror have asked the UK drug, whatever they are, and they've said we can't make statements yet because it's a legal reason. So you just hope somewhere they clear this up. But the Furies aren't going mad on Twitter. They're not really going, you know, saying, well, we can't understand where this come from. They're remaining pretty calm. And
Kurt, what's the actual claim? A diuretic during the Hamer fight?
Nandrolone.
Just says in samples from February of March of last year, unacceptable traces of Nandrolone in him and Huey. And Berto got caught for it, didn't he, as well, a few years ago? Same thing.
I want some of this.
I don't know what it does. I think it aids muscle growth, but I think I read somewhere it also increases red blood cells. Not entirely sure though.
It's a mess.
Tissue building, isn't it, or something?
Yeah, maybe for recovery and that. But this is the thing though. It's almost 18 months since he's allegedly took this. I mean, from what I understand from the timeline, he's taken it before the Christian Hammer fight. When was that? Last February.
Or afterwards as well.
You need it, wouldn't you, for a fight like that? I mean, Hammer was bringing a huge threat.
But they've found these traces of Nandrolone, or unacceptable traces, and yet he's been allowed to fight for the heavyweight title, win the heavyweight title, and arrange a rematch. And the rematch would have been taking place in 2 weeks' time. So once if after this investigation that apparently is taking place, that's took 18 months, once if it comes back that Tyson Fury's a drug cheat, I mean, what happens then?
Plus, Huey Fury's apparently been tied up in this as well. Now, he's had fights since that day. I suppose, 2 or 3 fights since then. He is medically meant to be, you know, in a bad way. They've meant to have found out what's wrong with him. So he might even have a therapeutic use exemption order. So he might get off with it. So I don't know what Tyson's excuse could be, unless he could say that if it's trace elements, he could say I've maybe touched a bad supplement or whatever it is. So he's going to have to try and cover that. But, you know, you just know, I think, I forget who said it, but if it wasn't true, you would think the Furies would be going absolutely batshit mental just now. You would really think that. But Who
Well,
knows?
instead of going batshit mental, he's in Leo buying 200 Jager bombs.
Well, that's going batshit mental, I suppose, isn't it?
You have got to love him though, because he really does not care. And you know, what other sportsman of that kind of level and you know, awareness / following would be out there just by getting pissed with the England fans? It is good, really.
It's fucking ironic though that Tyson Fury, like, you know, by his own admission, he's a fat slob, he's not an athlete and stuff like, gets caught for fucking steroids. Yet Anthony Joshua's going about fucking glowing green. Fucking hell.
Dave, is he clean or not?
He's clean. I mean, we all remember after he beat Vlad, he was extremely concerned about the handling of his water bottle because he was afraid that if somebody from Team Vlad or even if some roided up monster like Vitali were to touch it, then he would test positive for drinking it. Now, why would he have that fear if he was already using? Just doesn't make any logical sense. Plus, obviously,
It's a bluff, to double bluff, Dave.
Dave, you used that same argument when Floyd Mayweather with the IV, when you slagged Floyd for taking the IV, and yet Floyd campaigned to get drug testing and methodically in the sport.
he didn't campaign.
Yeah, but Dave doesn't like Mayweather and he likes Fury, so we've got to switch the logic.
Floyd did not campaign for a clean sport. He just he had to do the random testing once for the Mosley fight. After that, he pretty much just had everything his own way.
Fury will also state as well as he's just let everybody just like juice off their tits anyway.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure he said that once. Then just Fury says a lot of shit, mind you. Sorry, Dave.
Floyd's so-called campaign for a clean sport was very public and deliberately so. Tyson Fury's request for a separate water to keep his water safe was not like an overt public showing of, wow, this proves I'm clean, and it certainly wasn't. Well, my son's not on steroids. Random screaming out into the crowd.
Did you see AJ's dad last night? He was sweating buckets, that lad.
Is it because he's fat?
What you insinuating? Was he on like the fucking ching or the?
AJ's dad was sweating buckets. I promise you, last night his shirt was wet through.
Right, let Dave finish off. Dave.
Well, one more thing I mean, obviously, I think it's been said before, but Fury would be the worst advert ever for a guy taking roids. Besides that, he didn't really use his athleticism or some like unseen punching power or speed. He used skills and he used mind games to beat Vlad.
He ran.
So.
He was a runner for 12 rounds. You've got to have some sort of athletic ability to do that.
I don't really think he ran. He danced a bit, and he ran a lot less than Muhammad Ali did in some of the fights that people praise him for. So.
You hate Ali though.
Fuck's sake.
I do not hate Ali.
Well, you did. It's past tense.
Okay. Maybe I hate him at one point, but I don't hate Ali.
The thing is, that's what people give him the benefit of the doubt. They say, oh, look at him, you look at his body, look at Huey's body. They're not, jacked up or anything. But look at the fat Kababo and Tepper. I mean, what was he on?
Thompson, Tepper, they're all active.
Thompson, Tepper, James Toney, Antonio Tarver, all fat fucks who are on drugs. I mean, I'll just ignore those. But all this, you got to have a great body and to prove you're on drugs. That's the only reason people say about Joshua. Oh, he's on drugs because look at his body, or Klitschko, he must be on drugs body. But these fat fucks have all failed, and their bodies prove that they might be taking it for other reasons to actually lose a lot of the fat that they got around their gut. Yeah. But
lungs up like asthmatic qualities.
Yeah.
Has Tyson officially failed the test by the BBC?
We don't know.
No. Can I moan now, please?
No, because you've been itching it there all day. I hate it. You get a bit of shit on Twitter for it as well.
Right. Do you know what? I won't hide the fact I don't like Tyson Fury. It's not a secret. Never liked him for a list of reasons as long as my arm, and I've got long ass arms, right? And what other athlete, as Adam has just said, and I'll flip that and said, what other sportsman, elite athlete, can get away with the shit that he does and have people, some of you on here and a lot of people on Twitter go, oh, that's great, that is. It's brilliant, is it, that, he's pulled out of a fight that thousands of people have bought tickets for and paid for hotels and travel and took time off work potentially on weekends to, because he's got this apparent ankle injury that he sat on for 10 days before making it public. Meanwhile, Hennessy and other promoters and Box Nation were advertising that fight during those 10 days. So what does he do? Does he lay low and think, right, I need to get this ankle fixed because this fight's potentially going to get rearranged for as early as September or October? No, what he does, he flies off to France. He's there buying Jager bombs, jumping up and down. That's a great way to show how his ankle is really struggling, isn't it? And not only is the fact that he's basically mugged off his fans, he's then come out and it turns out that the wording from UKADA is damning to me, because what they say is, we don't discuss ongoing investigations.
Which is true, because I asked him about Kev Galahad and they came back with the same response.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? That's the correct response to have, because from a legal point of view, UKADA cannot come out and say, and the British Boxing Board of Control are led by what UKADA say. So what this information is, that it's obviously slipped out because someone in the Fury camp has let it out, that Tyson and Hughie Fury, by the looks of it, and I can only say by the looks of it because there's no confirmation yet, have at some stage in the last 18 months failed drugs tests for Nandrolone. Nandrolone is a woman's steroid that's used for nothing to do with any excusable reason for Hughie Fury's issue that he's got with the acne problem or any potential ailment that Tyson or Hughie Fury would have. It's a tissue building, or in English to us, a muscle building stimulant. That's what it's there to do. And people on Twitter today have just been like, oh, well, the shape he's in, no, he's not cheating. If this was anyone else, if this was, forget Anthony Joshua, if this was David Haye, if this was anyone, people would be going absolutely mental. Like I said, someone said to me, are you happy that he's failed his drugs test? At 3 a.m. last night when I found out, and I was pissed, I said I was. But you know what? I'm not, because I wanted to see Tyson Fury lose in the ring. I want to see him lose his title in the proper way to whoever that might be. But instead, we've got all these people that, went out to Germany, people who are big, big fans of Fury, some of them, like I say, on this podcast, and they're staring at a potential drug cheat who sacks off his fight for no legitimate reason. His ankle appears absolutely fine when he's bopping up and down, spending €1,000 on fucking Jager bombs. I mean, he's an embarrassment. He is beyond an embarrassment, and there were people that will lap it up. You know what he's like? He's like Donald Trump. Donald Trump's in a position where he can say and do almost anything, and there are enough people that will go, oh, it's all right, it's only Donald, that's just his way. And that's what Tyson can do. He can offend gay people, he can offend women, he can come out with the most misogynistic, nasty shit. Potentially now he's a drug cheat, and people just go, oh, it's all right. It fucking burns me. And
well,
people
the thing is, right, the thing with this drug, I'm just having a quick look through stuff and that just now, right? This drug has actually thrown up a few false positives in the past. So if it's trace amounts as well, I wouldn't be too quick.
If Daily Mirror had a story saying Anthony Joshua had trace amounts of Nandrolone,
they fucking hate him.
Yeah, of course.
No, that's what I mean. No, the tabloid. Yeah, so I'm saying. So the thing is, the defence mechanism will be. I've not seen the race card pulled yet, but I'm sure it will. The defence mechanism is, the tabloids and the newspapers have got it out for Tyson Fury. And they're not. They're just reporting what they've. The Daily Mirror, like I said, not saying that tabloids don't ever get things wrong, because they do all the time. But the Daily Mirror would have only reported that story because they had information leaked to them, not from UKADA, not from the British Boxing Board of Control, but someone in Fury's camp has obviously said something that they're concerned about. And look at that statement from Hennessy. His words were I got the same email as Steve, a 3-sentence statement that pretty much said, we are baffled by this test. There was no, this is disgraceful, we're going to, speak to our lawyers. Frank Warren, if this was a Frank Warren fire, Frank had his lawyers on the case yesterday. They're obviously worried. They know there's a problem, and the fact they've binned this fight off, maybe they realised this was going to come out publicly, and the conspiracy about tickets was wrong. Maybe it was nothing to do with the tickets. Maybe that they were worried it was going to be made public that Tyson Fury's a cheat.
What about the Kid Galahad angle, Paul? He's under Hennessy's thing. Fury's under Hennessy's umbrella as well.
Yeah, but
Kid Galahad.
No, I don't put the
Fury once.
Yeah, no, I don't put all that they share is a promoter. They don't share a training camp. They don't train in the same city. They don't share anything else other than that.
I know.
I think it's just I think it's a coincidence. It's an unfortunate coincidence for Hennessy, because two of his biggest names, obviously the one biggest and then one of the other biggest, have been potentially, well, one definitely has been caught out, and the other one may well have been caught out.
Mix on the roids.
Well, mix on the KFC grease diet, mate. It's not on the roids.
Right, any more for any more? I'm fed up with this now.
As far as what Tyson does and how he acts out of the ring, I could give a shit. I mean, this is the guy who beat Vlad, and I'll always have a soft spot for him for that. I don't particularly agree that he shouldn't be allowed to say what he wants about gays or women or whatever. He's free to say his opinions. It's up to us whether we agree with them or not. I don't think most people would, but I don't think there should be any sort of limits on
Adam does.
speech.
What?
Agree with what Fury says about gays and lesbians and.
Well, yeah, I support most things that he says. Yeah.
Carry on, Dave. Carry on.
Okay. So yeah, I think it's a little early for us to be judging now, isn't it? Because nothing official has yet come to light.
Yeah, but there's obviously an ongoing investigation, which is, no smoke without fire.
Right, Andy.
Sorry, mate.
Twitter questions. I'm sure we'll go back to the Fury thing at some point in the future when we have some more information. Right, Steve Antrobus is asking you, Andy, off Twitter. Question for the pod. What fights would need to be on a pay-per-view for you guys to not mind paying for it? He knows us too well.
What, a UK pay-per-view?
Yeah, say a Sky pay-per-view, equivalent to what we had last night, but not that sort of dejected, morose evening where everybody seems like they're bored off their tits.
Well, put it this way, you really need to kind of think. I mean, obviously, if you go back to the Don King days and stuff, you're probably never going to get like 3-4 world title fights with like good fighters on the card and that. But Kell Brook, I'm not really all that high on anyway. So that the can fight is far away. So Golovkin against who's he got? Obviously, this will need to be the Hearn show. So I really don't know, mate. I really don't know. I mean, because you end up having this bullshit about who tops the show and all that sort of stuff. So I'll just try and rhyme it off as much as possible. We'll go for Joshua against Fury or Wilder. Eubank against Saunders somehow, perhaps. I like to see Cleverly against Fanfara again. Wouldn't mind seeing that rematch. Jack against De Gale.
This is all on the same card, yeah?
Yeah.
Lucky to have this happening in 5 years. Never mind
Andy
one
wants his
card.
money.
And even then, Andy still wants to pay $9.95, not $16.95.
No, I would actually pay £2.95 for my stream. But I dare say, the brothers out there, like people like Rob Palmer, for instance, the guy who does Schindler's List and all that sort of stuff. He does more lists than Schindler, but he would have a great undercard and all that sort of stuff. He is the man for that type of question. But I'm just rhyming fights off that I want to see. That if it was on pay-per-view, a good chance I would probably pay for it. And those fights I would probably pay to see.
I would pay for. I don't buy shitty pay-per-view most of the time. But I would pay for Canelo Golovkin, assuming it happens.
$75? Oh, fucking hell, mate.
Not $70, it's $60.
$60. Well, we're paying £17 over here for our pay-per-views.
Yeah. Well, I just would love to
Are you
watch
paying
that.
for Postol Crawford?
No.
Yeah, but the difference is for Dave, when Dave does buy pay-per-views, he doesn't have to endure prospects no one's heard of making their debut on a pay-per-view card.
At 9 o'clock.
That's shocking. That's shocking.
I mean, could you imagine?
I didn't know who that was.
Yeah, I look at some American cards, and there are fighters like 17-0 versus 19-0, and they're on the non-televised section of their pay-per-views, and we get Conor Benn, who, like I said, if his last name was Jones or Smith, he wouldn't even be fighting at 5 o'clock on this kind of show. And then you had, do you know what? Felix Cash. Come on, man. I mean, why did we watch? Why was that on pay-per-view? I get why you got to put him on the card, no problem. He's a Londoner, he's a new prospect. And this idea that you're building a fighter, you don't build fighters on pay-per-view. Anthony Joshua, Ricky Hatton, Joe Calzaghe, the list goes on and on. They were built off pay-per-view and then moved to pay-per-view. Conor Benn, what's that? 3 fights, he's had 2 of which on pay-per-view, I think. I might be wrong. I might have got my dates mixed up there, but it was just awful. Like I said, I'd have been quite happy to have had the 3 fights. Eubank's fight, George Groves, and Joshua. I didn't need the rest of it. I thought it was pointless.
All right then. Fair
Well,
enough.
you know, I take it for the price though, because I mean, at least you get 3 fights that you are semi-interested in, and where the pound is right now, you guys are paying what, like 70 cents for a pay-per-view?
Brexit.
What was the question? What would we consider worth paying for? I mean, I never paid for Pacquiao Mayweather. I'm not paying for anything. I just think, why should we pay for it? I'm of the opinion that I don't care. Andy's card, you could put that on tomorrow. I ain't paying for it. I'm streaming it. And my look at is, why should I pay for it? You can have Barcelona against Real Madrid, 2 of the best teams in the world. Let's pay for that. No, just because they can doesn't mean they should. And I shouldn't have to pay for Anthony Joshua against Fat Guy, or Fat Guy against Fat Guy, or Martin Murray with 20 losses against George Groves with losses in title fights. To me, I'm not paying for it, and that's my opinion. And Mayweather Pacquiao, 2 best of the era, shit fight, but I didn't pay for it anyway. And last pay-per-view I paid for was Hatton Mayweather, and I'll never pay for one again. And that's my opinion.
Do you know what? Kurt's absolutely right, because I made a fundamental mistake when I paid for the Joshua Martin fight, and it was because I was even considering buying the fight this week, and then I really sat down, because obviously, everyone knows I'm a big Joshua fanboy, and I lick his arse, as everyone in the chat seems to have said about 95 times this evening. But I sat there, fantastic sound effect that. I sat there and I thought, do you know what? Why should I pay the Sky Sports is about £20 a month at the minute, £21 a month. Why should I pay almost an entire month's worth of Sky to watch that show? There was no financial justification for why it had to be pay-per-view. Breazeale was cheap, not $4 million. And then you've got Groves Murray, as he's just Kurt's outlined then, 7 times at world title level, 7 times they've come out without the belt. Pay-per-view shouldn't exist at any stage. In terms of what fight I'll be willing to pay for, that was a good finish. I'd pay probably to watch Eubank Golovkin because I want to see Eubank get smashed, but I won't. I'll be going to the pub again. I'd rather sit there. At least when I was at the pub last night, I was thinking about this. If the show's crap, at least you're out, you're doing something social. It's not like you're being at the fight, but you can be sat there at home having paid £17 to watch a god-awful shite show, as a lot of people did for Cleverly Bellew. I didn't pay for it, but a lot did. And you get nothing out of it. There is no other sport up to apart from UFC and WWE. So it's only combat sports that feel they can get away with this. And as Kurt just said, you can watch the best of every other sport. You can watch, Djokovic, Nadal. You can watch Madrid, Barcelona, Man U, Man City, whoever versus whoever. And it's just part of it. No one goes, right, because this is good and because we've got a fan base to exploit, we'll stick it on pay-per-view. And shows like Saturday will why pay-per-view, especially in the UK, is bollocks. And in America, they put on much better fights on pay-per-view cards generally, but then they expect people like Dave to fork out the equivalent of what, 40 or 50 quid? And it's fucking mental. One thing over here I will say, much as everyone goes on about how much people love Anthony Joshua, if they made it, £40 for a Joshua fight to watch, they couldn't get away with it. No one could try that over here. They do it in Denmark and they do it in America. I don't know how their fans put up with it. Boxing treats their fans like shit, and pay-per-view is just another example of how they do it. And like I said, I made a mistake last time, and I will never buy another pay-per-view again. I will find another way of watching it. I'm never going to pay for that again.
Someone record that statement.
I won't need it for Joshua Fury because I'll have sold all the possessions I own to be in the front row. So I sell all the possessions I own, so I could probably get a 40 quid ticket.
40 quid ticket? Where are you going to be, in the fucking car park?
That'll be
I'll have the 40 quid ticket, and then £10 for a set of binoculars and a phone, so I can speak to you guys and find out what's actually happening during the fight. There was a guy tweeting me during the Groves Murray fight. I can't remember who it was, but he was about 8 rounds through the fight, and he said, how have you got this? From where I'm sat, Murray's about 6 rounds up. And I was like, well, you must be sat in the wrong arena.
My scoring.
But Paul, you still pay the price though when you go to the pub. I mean, you just said you paid more monetarily there, plus you sacrifice a bad day at work.
Do you know what? Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because I went down, all joking aside, I said, well, if I spend £17 or less, I'll be happy. But after watching the Conor Benn fight, I think I was about 20 quid down after that. Yeah. So it was, it definitely cost me more. But I had a better time, so it was all good.
Yeah, but I think Paul can go to the pub and he could spend 500 quid in the pub. His hands are clean of that horrific pay-per-view, and he knows he hasn't put any money into that smug bastard Eddie Hearn's pockets, and that's good enough. That's what I do. David Lee, on the other hand, he should be just burnt alive for his constant pay-per-view buys, I think.
David Lee should just be a pay-per-view season ticket holder. You know, like at Man U, where if they've got a League Cup game, they take the money straight out your account. You don't even need to sign up; just take it straight off him.
I actually bought last night's pay-per-view twice. So I woke up this morning and I bought it on my Skybox upstairs. So I paid for it twice.
Oh God!
Love it, Dave.
Well, it is nice to have a different perspective.
Yeah, I was too lazy to go downstairs, so I said, "Fuck it, I'll just pay the 21 quid again."
Okay, now.
You have so much money. I was going to say, even if you did, that's something that genuinely I thought he might have done that because you have that much money that you went, oh, I can't be asked for.
What do you do for a living?
It's a secret.
I'm not surprised.
No,
toilet paper.
I do a lot of overtime, and I've got no social life. I don't smoke. I don't drink.
Have you got a missus?
No.
Has he got a missus? Come on.
Have you got a mister?
No one's that desperate. No, I haven't. No, not that there's anything wrong with that, apart from what Adam thinks.
Oh, there's
no. Yeah. But no. In all seriousness, when pay-per-view was first introduced in the States, it was a good thing because before pay-per-view came in, the only way you could watch like the big mega fights was via closed circuit. Your Ali Frazier's and Leonard Hagler and all those type of fights. So pay-per-view gave you the option of watching these big fights at home. The problem is TV companies and promoters as well, have milked the pay-per-view setup for all it's worth. I mean, in the UK and Ireland, the first pay-per-view that came into prominence was the rematch between Tyson and Bruno. And I remember at the time there was uproar. People saying, "Oh, I'm not paying for that. It's disgraceful. I already pay for Sky, so why should I have to fork out more money just to watch Tyson and Bruno?" But unfortunately, it was a huge success. And ever since then, the pay-per-view market in the UK has been, bled dry with some really poor. I mean, it's not just Hearn. Going back to the days of Warren. Warren's put on some shy pay-per-views as well. Nassim Hamed against Billy Hardy was pay-per-view. So it's been milked dry for years, and it will continue to be milked dry because saps like me continue to pay for it.
I think the original outcry though was when it went from terrestrial BBC and ITV to Sky Sports, because obviously that's a subscription based. And I remember in the Boxing Monthly, Glyn Leach was moaning about it, saying we're gonna have to fork out. But it's gone even worse now, because now you have to pay subscription to then get the pay-per-view that you have to pay for again on top. So it's even worse, but it's more accepted now. But yeah, like I said, back in the day, that was what they weren't happy with as well.
Yeah. I mean, but look, the thing is, I mean, if the purse is justified, if it's a huge fight, you can see that point of view. Okay, it needs to be a pay-per-view event for the money to be put up to get guys over and to pay for, stacked card. All these guys' purses add up to an astronomical amount. But last night there was no justification for having that fight on pay-per-view. I mean, how much did it cost to get Breazeale over? And
$4 million.
How much did
So
I thought it
fucking
cost $4
kebabs.
million. How much did it cost to put Groves against Murray together and all those other fights we saw? I mean, it's just taking the piss, really, isn't it?
Yeah. No, you are right, Dave. I mean, if they're bringing over megastars or they're saying, we have to pay so-and-so, then you can sort of understand. But whenever they're putting on Dross on the undercard, it doesn't.
Hearn never does. That's the thing. I mean, Hearn, I know, like you said, Warren's done it, and that's fair enough. I mean, I'm happy to shit on him, but at the moment, it's just Hearn doing it. And the fact is, he's not bringing over massive stars. He isn't bringing over the best in the business. He's bringing over Dominic Breazeale, Prince Charles Martin, absolute crap. And he's still selling it on pay-per-view because idiots are buying it, and until that stops, I mean, it'll never happen. I mean, but I understand people, who want to watch boxing and they're not happy with streaming it, they're worried about it going down. It's like they're being forced to pay for it. They don't want to miss out on it. They don't want to trust the stream, so they're paying for it. And even if they're not happy paying for it and they don't want to do it, they're still doing it because that's the only way to watch boxing, and they're obviously massive fans. And that's where Hearn he's rubbing off a lot of people the wrong way, because he's using that to say, well, if you want to watch it, pay for it, and if not, go without.
Right, guys, that was our first Twitter question.
We're already at an hour and 40 minutes. Fucking hell. Not very good at streamlining this, are we? Come on, Steve, get a grip on it.
I'm a facilitator of conversations, Paul, nothing more, nothing less. Right, I want a line off each of yous. Not that type of line, Andy. For the rest of the questions, so we can get onto our values and stuff. Okay. Now, the next question. This is about pay-per-view. Kurt, question for tonight's pod from Jose Aldo's Revenge. Do you think that the Eubanks want pay-per-view to make the Golovkin fight? On the broadcast, they were actually talking it down.
Well, yeah, I think they're gonna want it because that's where the money is, and that's what if they're taking on a fight like Golovkin, they're gonna want as much money as possible, and that's pay-per-view. Hearn's not gonna pay them. He'll use the excuse that Golovkin, financial demands make it that it has to be pay-per-view. But in that instant, you can understand it because that's a fight everyone would like to see, and I mean, you're not going to get much on the card because it'll all go into that main event. But yeah, I mean, they'll surely want pay-per-view. They want the most money because this is a really tough fight for him. And if you think of someone like Cleverly, on Bucks Nation, face someone like Kovalev, I mean, how much did he really get paid? Was it a fantastic payday to get his career ended by Crusher? No, it wasn't. So I think if Eubank's gone into this type of fight, he's going to want as much money as possible, and that's pay-per-view.
Yep. Dave Loback, Sam Clark is asking you, who will get knocked out quicker, Eubank or Liam Smith?
I'd have to say Liam Smith. I think he's worse, even though I think Canelo gets destroyed by GGG. I think Liam Smith might actually give it a go early on and open himself up for flush counters, whereas Golovkin's going to break down Eubank slowly with a jab and then take him out. Plus, I think Eubank is a pretty tough kid and talented physically. So yeah, I think that's actually a much better fight than Canelo versus Liam Smith. It's not official yet, though, is it?
No, not completely, but it seems on the grapevine like it's very close.
It's a lot more official than Vargas and Brook.
Yeah, that's true.
That's very true.
I heard Brook looked like he was about 30 stone last night.
He had more chins than a Chinese phone book, mate.
Right, Andy. John Kelly with a technical question on Twitter, quite a good one actually. I'm not sure if this is relevant, but do the WBO have a rehydration limit for title bouts? If not, how much bigger will Canelo be for Smith on the night? Good question.
No, I don't. I think the IBF are the only ones that do that, mate. £10 between the first weigh-in and the second weigh-in. So I mean, I'd imagine Canelo will be coming in something around about, 165, maybe 170?
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
I really like to know what Liam Smith kind of like rehydrates to. I'd imagine he wouldn't go up as high as 160 maybe.
It's hard to say. I mean, all these guys are putting on weight. I mean, I think a lot of these guys are doing it. And I remember when James Kirkland fought Carlos Molina, both of them weighed in at 154. Both of them were in the ring at 175. I mean, so we never know about Liam Smith. It's hard to say. They don't show us the weights in this country, but if they show us, it wouldn't be surprising if he was right up there as well. Not as big as Canelo, but I think he'll put on the weight.
Just thinking, actually, anybody think that maybe Canelo will actually miss weight?
I can't see him making 154 with any ease.
Well, it just depends how much he wants this worthless bout, I imagine, but it's going to make a mockery of the fight even more because it's on pay-per-view in the States as well, and the only reason they're fighting Liam Smith is because he's got this title, so if he doesn't even make the weight, it's absolutely worthless even then.
Bring back same-day weigh-ins, that's what I said.
Bring back same-day weigh-ins.
Totally agree, same-day weigh-ins.
Christ, imagine Keith Thurman fighting on the same night he weighed in looking like that, fucking hell.
He's really
Andy, do you remember when Scott Harrison fought Wayne McCullough? Do you remember the size of that fucker in the ring?
But the thing is, I think McCullough had just come up from super bantamweight at the time.
That was dangerous.
That was fucking crazy. It was just like Guy against Gamache, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It was exactly. Joey Gamache, yeah, it was exactly like that. Thankfully, well, McCullough did collapse in his dressing room that night.
What a chin he's got on McCullough because Harrison put a beating on him that night, like.
Joshua-Breazeale.
Oh, fucking hell. They don't have to get it drained. I'm sure to get like 3 drains put in his ear at one point.
He collapsed in his dressing room afterwards. He took an almighty beating, but I was actually there that night, and I just remember I was at the Braehead Arena, and I could not get over the size of Harrison. And that was the fight where I said to myself, Jesus Christ, these 24-hour weigh-ins are actually dangerous to fighters, because you had a guy who was probably a light welter, maybe even a welter, fighting very small featherweight. It was fucking crazy.
I was a big guy for the weight, Scott Harrison, like.
Oh, he was, yeah.
I met Joey Gamesh a couple of years ago in New York. He runs a gym there, I think. Very nice guy, but you can tell. I don't know if it's all from that Gaddy knockout, but he's got some damage.
Yeah, Dave. I saw him in Limerick once. He was in Andy Lee's corner, and he kind of walks kind of funny. So he's definitely feeling the effects of that. Still feeling the effects of that fight.
I was going to tell exactly the same story, Dave. Actually, that's right. The both of you. I've met him, nice guy, but definitely took a few too many punches. He used to work a lot with Manny Stewart, didn't he? Come over.
He did, yeah.
I also think he's the Sörland's Scandinavian trainer. He works with Clara Svensson, Patrick Nielsen, and all those guys, I think, as well. The Danish and Swedish fighters, Erik Skoglund.
Yeah. The sickening knockout, Gatti Kamash, was one of the most horrible knockouts you'd ever see.
Yep, look it up on YouTube if it's there. Right, Box Bet Monster asks a question. I'll answer this one. He said, should Breazeale petition for a rematch considering the fight didn't go his way? I'm going to say no. It'll be it was difficult enough getting Breazeale over as it was, and they'll have to double his money, and Hearn can't afford the $8 million payday, so I wouldn't be coming over, Dominic, if I was you. Right, who is left? Dave Lee. Sean Brushett is asking you, does Hearn get credit if he brings over Triple G, Vargas and Linares to the UK?
He should get credit, whether he will or not, I don't know.
Pay-per-view, though.
Pay-per-view, yeah.
Linares isn't on pay-per-view, though, was he?
No, that fight's definitely not pay-per-view. No, in fairness, no, right, the Crawler Linares fight, that's a absolutely fantastic fight. My only issue with it, and it's not really an issue, it's just I don't understand the need to kind of sex it up with this false unification thing. It's not a unification fight, but it is a great fight. I don't understand the need.
Just out of curiosity here, actually, I know the Ring magazine have actually changed their ranking criteria. So it used to be like the fighter who was number 1 could win it if he fought the number 3 guy. Yeah. But I'm sure they've changed it to like you can go down as far as number 6.
Yeah, you can. I'll be honest with you, Andy. I've stopped paying attention to the Ring ever since the Golden Boy clear out of a lot of their guys going back a few years ago. The likes of Detloff and Raskin. They got in a lot of yes men. So I've stopped buying the Ring, and I don't pay attention.
If the numbers 1 and 2 contenders choose not to fight one another, and either of them fights number 3, number 4 or number 5, the winner may be awarded the ring belt if the editorial board deems the contenders worthy. Here are the 7 situations in which a champion can lose his belt. Right, so Linares is class number 1 and Crawler's number 3 just now with Ring magazine. So I suppose under the old criteria that'd actually be okay.
But isn't that whole editorial board just basically Chuck Jumper talking shit?
Guys just say shit.
But the guy had Adrian Broner at pound for pound number 6.
Wanker.
But even allowing for the Ring title or whatever, I mean, it's still not a unification fight because the Ring doesn't recognize sanctioned bodies and vice versa. So that's not a unification fight. The Ring's not an official world title.
Right, Paul. Question / rant from Dippo Osho on the Facebook page. He says, how is it possible that Chris Eubank Jr. has got a Triple G shot before Billy Joe Saunders when Triple G wants Billy Joe Saunders' belt more than anything? Does this once again highlight how poor Frank Warren is as a promoter, or is Billy Joe that much of a pussy that he wants to keep pricing himself out of the fight? Surely they both realise that losing to Triple G is no stain on your record, and in fact a good showing would enhance your reputation. He has fought no one in 8 months and is fast becoming irrelevant in the division. Shame.
Well, he's right. He's wrong on that. It's not Frank Warren's fault. I just said that on a podcast. It's not Frank Warren's fault. Billy Joe Saunders was offered the fight to Frank Warren's office. Frank Warren will have spoke to Billy Joe Saunders, spoke to Kinahan and the MGM and on behalf of Saunders and said, this is the offer, this is what they're willing to pay you, which is an awful lot of money. Billy Joe Saunders knows how difficult that fight is, knows that it would potentially him losing his belt. He just decided he didn't want it. The only reason why Billy Joe Saunders would fight Golovkin was if there was huge money on the table. Because it's not a pay-per-view fight in the UK, because Billy Joe's not a UK fighter, he wasn't going to get that from here. It would be on regular HBO, so it wouldn't be on pay-per-view in America. So he turned it down. Now, if you're Golovkin, you've gone through Saunders then. There are other fighters that you can't seem to get in the ring with him. So the next step is to look at someone like Eubank. For Golovkin, it's a fight that he doesn't have to have in America. And he likes fighting outside of the US. It's a big pay-per-view fight, so he's going to get a lot of money for it. If you're Tom Loeffler, you can pretty much leave it up to Matchroom to do all the work, and he's going to get you a sold-out venue at the O2 because Hearn would sell that out, or wherever they want to put the fight on. So it makes total sense. I think it's a knock on Billy Joe Saunders for stepping away from the fight, but what will be a much bigger knock will be is if Eubank steps away from it, because by all accounts, Hearn's delivered the whole fight and event and the champion for him. And listening to Eubank Sr. talk about Sky money split and how he wants to change the game for the fighters, there was a great bit in the video when on the IFL video when they were filming the press conference and Hearn just looked at Coogan and rolled his eyes when Senior was talking, because people can say he's very knowledgeable and he's got the best interests of his son or whatever, but he's in danger of costing his son this fight, because I actually think Eubank Jr. would take the fight. I mean, I think he genuinely thinks he's going to win, but Senior could, from the boardroom point of view, screw it. And I can't remember a fight before where everything was laid out and ready, and then they've gone, right, well, on Monday now we've got to see if this happens. It's normally a case of they get the fight and then they work out all the intricacies, and this has been done the other way around. I think this is Hearn's attempt at saving face. And someone said it earlier, Eddie Hearn is in a win-win situation with this. Chris Eubank Jr. is not and will never be his guy. He will never own him like he has with many other fighters. He is someone that will happily leave Eddie Hearn if there's a better offer next week, and he's proven that in the past. If he loses, Hearn doesn't lose because Eubank's not his guy. If he wins, he's got another pay-per-view fighter on Sky, and someone that he will try and then tie down to a long-term deal. So both of Saunders, we already know what his situation is, and he's passed it up. And for that reason, I'm not that fussed about Billy Joe Saunders right now. You know, he passed up Golovkin and then signs to fight Max Bursak, and it's pathetic. And Eubank Jr., if he doesn't take this fight, he should get absolutely hammered.
Yeah, I just think I don't see how you can blame Frank Warren like the question asked, because we've seen Liam Smith going with Canelo. You know, I think Frank Warren's he's in a dilemma where he's stable. He's not what he once was. I mean, he's had some great fighters, and now he needs the big fights. You know, whether his guys are big underdogs or not, you know, he's putting Smith in with Canelo. I think he'd love Billy Joe Saunders against Golovkin, even if Billy Joe, you know, he's not going to be picked by anyone to win the fight, because he's, you know, you're getting Golovkin over here. But I just think it highlights the vast levels between Sky and Box Nation. You know, Billy Joe Saunders wants a big money to take on Golovkin, which, you know, I can understand, but he just can't get it. Whereas Eubank will probably get big money because the arena will be sold out, Sky will promote the shit out of it, and it'll probably sell loads on pay-per-view as well, like for what they want to do. Whereas on Box Nation, what can they do? They can get Golovkin over here. Warren, I mean, you'd think he wouldn't, even he couldn't make a mess of it and sell the tickets for Golovkin, but even then you probably see ridiculous prices and people, you know, not sure buying them. And then he can't be on pay-per-view, despite all they talk about. They can go on Sky pay-per-view. Even if they could, they can't promote for shit. They're clueless now. You know, Frank's, let's be honest, he's a dinosaur now, and his sons, you know, they're doing big things behind the scenes, but they don't seem to have the same, you know, well, they haven't got the same power that Eddie Hearn has. And even if they could get on Sky pay-per-view, can they promote the fight and sell a fight to get Billy Joe what he wants? Obviously not.
No, I'm not sure about that pay-per-view thing, you know, the way Frank was saying, or George, I think it was a while back, about them maybe being not Sky box office, but Sky something else, but I don't think that's going to happen, to be honest with you. Adam, are you still awake?
Yo.
I don't know if you know anything about this, but I'm going to ask you the question.
Oh, that's a bad start, Steve. You know I'm a casual.
Michael Healy, trying to up your game here, Adam, a little bit. What's the panel's views on Eddie Hearn's comments on IFL TV about calling out casuals on comments? Does it alienate new fans from the sport?
Well, I don't think it's... I mean, yeah. I mean, he was obviously talking about Brian, who I think is absolutely superb at it. He's got far too much time on his hands, but he is superb, and I do find it funny. But yeah, obviously it puts people off. But we've got to remember that us folks on here and on the other side of the podcast divide are not the target market of Eddie Hearn or Sky Sports. We are not. So if someone is getting excited about going down to London to watch AJ against some no-oper and two blokes who've lost 7 world titles, Eubanking against someone who's got no chance. If they're excited about that, fair enough. You know, Paul gets excited about watching Aston Villa. Fair enough. You know, shit happens. People get excited about stuff they're probably not meant to. But it's funny, but it's probably disheartening for quite a few people. But yeah, I mean, we need. But you know, we're seeing these new fans come in and fill stadiums and arenas and buy pay-per-views. But has it improved the sport for us hardcores? Well, not me, but you hardcores. No, it's not. It's not improved the sport. So you can't fault people like Mr. King who do go around in rather comical manner take the piss. So fair enough. It's fair game.
Talking of Mr. King, actually, Michael Buffer made quite a heartfelt eulogy towards Muhammad Ali. It was a bit of a strange when he started going on about what is it, heaven gaining angels and in the earthly paradise. It reminded me of the eulogy when Brian passed away in January.
I'm just glad Buffer got Muhammad Ali's name right. That's why.
That's the main thing. I mean, that was pretty. You know, the guy's dead, man. I mean, I know it's okay. It's the first heavyweight title fight as such since he died, but. The man's dead. I mean, see, if you're going to use Ali as some sort of fucking inspiration, fine, good and well, I'm not going to tag you for that, but if you want his fucking path to greatness, fight the guys, fight the top men like Ali did, and don't duck no one. Go all over the world and defend your title like Ali did. Be the fucking man like he was. You know, this fucking, he was an inspiration and then fucking fight trash.
It's the official passing of the torch from Ali to Anthony Joshua. That's what last night was about.
What was that fucking dick Gordon Ramsay saying last night?
I was gonna save that for value of the week, but yeah,
I'll leave that for that then.
Okay, yeah, but no, just getting back to the interview that Steve mentioned there. I mean, that was actually a very interesting interview with Eddie Hearn, because for the first time in a long while, he seemed genuinely pissed off with a lot of the criticism he's been getting from the so-called hardcore fan base. He even joked, well, he half-jokingly talked about at one point phoning up the employers of all the people who are giving him stick, saying like,
from my own experience, that's not a particularly good idea.
that might have been Eddie Hearn.
Do you know what? I understand what he was trying to say was, and he's right. You know, like Gary Lineker can't use Twitter really. Because every time anything he tweets, people just reply with "shat on" and then whatever he said. So like Gary Lineker put a tweet about like Joe Cox being murdered, and then the first response was "shat on Joe Cox." So every time that Hearn responds to a question or retweets someone's excitement, these guys get screen grabbed or quote tweeted by Brian and his army, and they get ridiculed. And I think that was his frustration, that he thinks that hardcore fans are mocking casuals.
So,
but
is Hearn basically complaining about Brian then, basically? Because I don't go out my road to fucking tweet or fucking quote Eddie Hearn's every comment and stuff. I mean, I understand the reason why Brian does it, and I don't know why Eddie puts up with it, because you can really easily block him. But I think Eddie finds it funny. Eddie's playing the game here.
No, he's playing the game. He's playing the game. He doesn't play the game. He doesn't block people. But I think his anger, and you could tell he was genuinely frustrated, was the fact that he feels like he can't respond to people because he doesn't want them to get daggers from loads of people online. And that was his point, was because it's true. Someone will send him a question like, "Hi Eddie, who's the MC?" You know, all those important questions. "Hi Eddie, what time is the ring walk?" "Hi Eddie, is Stormzy there?" You know, all these questions that you see every single time there's one of these shows on. And he's responding less and less to them now, because of the abuse. But you know what? Yeah, exactly. As much as I understand his point, some of the shit these morons tweet to these people, it's painful. And like I said, and I was in the room equivalent of those Twitter questions on Saturday night. So Brian, keep up the good work. Keep retweeting these little freaking weird mongos.
The best one was the AJ tattoo. I mean, that deserves endless retweets. I don't know how he can be pissed off at that. That was just hilarious. He must have pissed himself at that.
Spike O'Sullivan got involved in that. I think he trolled that guy like he didn't even fucking know he was getting trolled. Because I think he was trying to get an interview going with him and stuff. It was just, fucking tragic, man.
Well, that tattoo's already out of date now. What the fuck was the point?
Well, maybe it was painted on.
He'll probably get it on his...
I mean, fucking wishes it was, no?
Probably get on his dick next.
Right, Dave Loback, another question from Dippo Osho. Who's the worst father in boxing?
Worst father...
I thought it was just going to be who's the worst father. I was going to say Joseph Fritzl, but then he said in boxing.
Edwin Valero.
Lloyd Senior.
I think you've gone a bit your Floyds, your Angels, your Kens.
For not shooting the load in the sink.
Edwin Valero is my best one.
See, to be honest, Dave, seeing the point of ejaculation, nothing a herd of wild horses can make my arse go in the opposite direction. Like,
Okay.
That was a good one.
Billy Connolly. Right, okay. That
Legend.
What about Roy Jones's father was pretty
Beat him
naughty.
with a pipe or some shit.
He's a cunt. He should have been jailed for fucking child abuse. That bastard.
Yeah, Bryn was telling us about that, wasn't he?
Yeah, evil bastard.
He fucking wanked himself silly over the Lebedev fight, didn't he, the cunt?
Yeah. So did Steve Smoger.
He's worse than Gus Tomato. Right. Yeah. Any more for any more? We're going on to Bellews. Anybody got any Bellews?
Martin Ramsey.
Yes, I want to put up Eddie Hearn for the Bellew of the week because...
Hold on, Andy. Let me just go on. Let me go off my list first. Just making sure people have got some because I was having trouble getting into my phone, but I seem to have got them now, so don't worry about that. We're going on to the esteemed Bellew of the week, everybody, and I'm getting sent these like by rocket fire on the weekends whenever Eddie's running these shows. So thanks, Eddie, for providing us with so many great moments here. Right, okay, so the first nomination is from Christopher Young. It's for Mr. Amir Khan. Donnie will be sad to hear this one. I'd take the Canelo rematch any day if he comes to 147.
He's making demands from his fucking hospital bed, isn't he?
He's been listening to fucking Floyd Mayweather too much.
Now, this is a good one. Chris Eubank Jr. was tweeted at Triple G Boxing. He said, "I'm ready for you." And then Tarak Bennett jumped in and said, "I'm with you, mate. Smash the fucking hype job." Thanks, Tarak, for that one. That's a good one. Kel Brook for sending a heartfelt Father's Day message to his dad. Happy Father Day, Tel. And he spelt father wrong as well. So he's maybe not the sharpest tool in the box, old Kel there.
Is that his dad,
Yeah.
Okay.
Old Terry. Right, Deontay Wilder's getting a nomination for saying before that Joshua-Breazeale is a 50-50 fight.
Fuck.
Alright then. DJ Abe Samp on Facebook is getting nominated. Let me just write him down. For saying, showing a picture of Deontay Wilder versus Jason Gavin, and he says, "This dude brings the attention back to the heavyweights. He, Ali, Tyson, and Louis in one." So, thanks for that, DJ. That's a good one. I like that one. Rob Kerr tweeted at Connor Ben, "Do you reckon you'd do Chris Eubank Jr. at the minute?"
Fucking, I've seen a couple of idiots tweeting about that the day actually, and one dick actually did block me for fucking winding them up about it. What's the weight difference? £25, maybe more?
Yeah, that's wild.
30 pounds? But what weight is he? Lightweight?
Ben's a lightweight, isn't he? I think.
Yeah. So fucking hell.
Tell you who isn't a lightweight, Andy? Peter Quillen. Did anybody see the photos of him going around now?
I didn't see that, mate. Good to hear that he's probably devastated and stuff. I never rated that guy. I like to call him fake chocolate, as you know. So I wouldn't mind no seeing him back in the ring again. Actually, that's how much I don't like watching him.
So
seeing him getting vaporized off Jacobs was amazing.
He's huge, absolutely huge. Right. Nomination for Charlie Zelenoff. He's tweeting at Prince Charles Williams now. He says, "You should fight me to get back respect in boxing. I will knock you out. Let's spar, punk. I'm here." And then he showed a picture of himself wearing a t-shirt saying, "Charlie Z, undefeated UBF champ." And then Prince Charles responds to him, "Okay, let's spar. I'm a heavyweight, so when I start landing bombs, don't complain." So Charlie's talking himself into another fight there.
I hope he gets vaporized as well. That's fucking flatlined. Absolute wanker. He is a walk in a boat. In fact, he should be fucking donated to medical research for fucking science, by the way. I swear to God.
Right, a solid one from Billy Joe Saunders. He says, "I know this sounds thick, but I take it this will be our last European tournament. #football. After the Brexit." Good old Billy Joe, man.
That's a great one.
I like that one. Mart Foley sends in Golden Boy. They have on their Twitter page as their bio, "Best versus the best," and then right below a tweet for Canelo versus Smith. Good old Oscar. David Odell, he was complaining about Nick Halling actually. I'm not going to put this one in, but he says he is excelling in his shitness tonight. He was unbelievably bad. Anybody else have any hate for Nick?
every fucking week, mate. I mean, what fight was it now? Was it Doran against Eubank? I think Doran had landed at least 2 left hooks. Didn't even fucking call it. And then I forget what fight it was. It might have been Murray. There was one fight anyway. He says that the fighter's looking tired, and then 30 seconds later he says, "Oh, he's looking fresh. He's letting his hands go." So you just said 30 seconds ago the guy's looking tired, you prick.
I think two things that annoyed me about Watt and Hall in the fucking Chuckle Brothers is, I think after about 30 seconds of that fight with Breazeale, Watt came out with the line, "He's already done better than Charles Martin." I mean, I don't think I punched him. And that, just basically that he was standing, he's done better than Charles Martin, I think he was saying. And what was the other one? Halling said, I can't remember his exact quote, but he blatantly said, like, after about 5 rounds, Breazeale has proved all the doubters wrong and proven that he deserved it, or he was like a credible challenger because he was a fat punch bag with tits. I mean, I don't understand that fucking line of thought.
It was a fucking voluntary defence as well. You go fucking plucked out the fucking rankings because there was no other cunt available.
So
He was
in the
funny
Groves,
Halling, because he was
in the
saying about that he thought, Joshua could tire if it goes so many rounds, and then Haye basically said no, he'll not tire because he's not being fought at a pace. And then Jim mentioned something later, and Halling almost said verbatim, "Oh, he'll not tire, Jim, because he's not fighting at any sort of a pace."
He learns on the job, Nick does. I mean, you got to give him credit.
the first 3 rounds of the Groves-Murray fight, he kept on saying, "Oh, Murray's got to come forward and use his strength." And then he did that in the 4th round, and he goes, "Oh, Murray's stronger than Groves, who would have thought it?"
Yeah, Murray, after 2 rounds, Murray needs to do more. He's just, got his earmuffs on. I mean, I've never seen Marty Murray fight before. I mean,
Oh, no.
He does, doesn't it?
Right, Nick's getting a nomination for that then. Lopez's love child put forward Mike Coppinger. Coppinger had a few offences this week. I know he's having a long-running argument with Brian and Andy Pops and those boys and
He's a
whatever.
wanker, by the way, Coppinger.
he's
Absolute fucking
quite
knob.
argumentative,
According
isn't
to him, you only know boxing if you get fucking paid for it. You fucking imbecile.
He didn't think Groves had any chance of winning either, so he's getting
recalling.
He's getting nominated for that. Also nominated for Carl on Twitter. This is quite a good one. Sergio Martinez said something about Frampton fight. He's going to be there for his fight against Santa Cruz on July the 30th. And Carl jumped in and said, "Very classy comment. You're the only one of Frampton's opponents I like." Thumb up. I don't think Sergio was fighting Carl, if you're listening. Right. Andy Pops has sent forward Piers Morgan. Straight after the fight, Piers boxing knowledge that he is jumped in and said, "Great performance at Anthony Joshua against a tough, resilient opponent." Right. Well, I suppose he's not wrong there. But yeah, you're getting one anyway, Piers. Dr. Salt, that's Leon, that's our friend
He's
Leon.
a cunt, that Piers Morgan.
He's had. I thought you were having a go at Leon there.
No.
Added ASAP Tobbs to the list at Lapsy09 on Twitter. Mr. Tobbs says, "With all due respect to Ali, Anthony Joshua is on course to become the greatest the sport has ever seen."
Eddie Hearn was saying this shit like fucking after the White fight, he'll be the greatest the world's ever seen. And I was like, I've never watched an interview with you again. And I'm fucking very selective with that bastard. The hype is unbelievable. I mean, I was seeing the vines on Twitter this morning. There's cunts in the fucking pub shouting, "There's only one Anthony Joshua," and then we're doing it all like that Will Griggs song. I'm saying to myself, what the fuck's happening? He's not fought any cunt next to me. He's getting fucking classed as the saviour of boxing.
I'm disappointed though, Andy. They've dropped the future People's Champion moniker,
no.
but I suppose now he is the People's Champion. So it's.
I'm seeing people on non-boxing forums actually quoting and says, "Oh, I like Big AJ. He seems a humble and down-to-earth person." I mean, fuck! They're fucking people are believing this shit now. If they actually knew who he really was deep down, the guy's an actual fucking street thug. They have a difference of their fucking opinions.
This sort of humble, he's a nice guy. What annoys me is these fans, not the casual ones who don't have a clue and they only watch AJ, but some of these guys who like AJ, he's a nice guy, it's good to see a heavyweight champion, with class. These are the same guys who call Klitschko a boring fucking robot. I mean, so you can't have it both ways. I mean, it's just bizarre to me.
Right, this is quite a good one actually. Jenny Lizzarazzo got involved in the Joshua love last night, and she says, "Anthony Joshua, this is what it must have felt like watching Mike Tyson fight in his prime. Boxing
boxing was flatlining and Breazeale's jiggly tits. We needed that.
By the way, can I just? I want to see how much experts use our own tits. What size do you think his cup was, Breazeale's? I'm going to go for a B cup.
I'm going to be,
It's
yeah.
only a B, yeah.
B, yeah.
I thought that was his pay for the fight was tit implants.
Dominic B cup Breazeale.
The Cheb ratio. Right. MC Ketch has nominated Adam Smith for.
Me?
No, not you. Surprisingly, the other one,
Oh.
the fake one, for saying that Avanesian upset Mosley, who is basically a ghost of himself. Adam Smith's lost all credibility, hasn't he?
Oh, aye.
Like someone who's only got 6 weeks to live, he's coming off with so much bizarre statements.
Aye.
Is he going to
Ever since-
go and shoot somebody or something?
Ever since he came out with that comment after Ali died and he put Joshua's name in with Leonard and Duran and fucking all those guys and stuff, I'm saying to myself, nah, that's you. You're just a fucking puppet master now. Hype job.
He's like fucking. I look at him like this. When he was at his best, when he was good, he was like John Lennon. He hooked up with Johnny Nelson. It was like Lennon hooking up with Yoko Ono. He turned into a fucking prick, hasn't he? Let's be fair. He's just lost it now, hasn't he?
Right.
This is a long list, Steve.
Oh God! And people send these to me all week.
I know, it's great, mate. Yeah, they see what I had to put up with for almost 2 years, every Sunday, every weekend.
My missus is coming in every 5 minutes and giving me daggers because I don't let her stream anything you see until I've finished in case it messes up the recording. So she's having to sit up there and like read books and stuff.
Just play with those chebs, mate. That's.
Oh, there's a freaking child hanging off him half the time. Don't get me wrong.
I didn't worry, mate. Didn't worry about it, mate. That's what they say. I mean, women always say men are big babies. That's because we'll still like sucking on their tits, you know.
Okay, Liam Wynn. This is not tit related. He's nominated himself for buying 2 tickets to the Fury fight in good faith as a hardcore boxing
That is
fan,
tit related.
wanting to believe the fight would take place between the number 1 and the number 2 in the division. Will probably lose about $1,000 because he lives abroad. I think he lives in Italy. This is the dark side of boxing, guys. And finally, I think Edward May.
Well, if the lad's listening, he can come racing with me at York on that day if he's listening.
That's just, is that a further punishment?
Hook me up.
Well, he's welcome to come to the Warsaw Town Hall with me to watch Lennox Clark, the future middleweight champion of the world, if you want.
Edward Mays has nominated Showtime for. Did Showtime effectively live stream the fight on Twitter last night? Apparently so. This is what Edward Mays is saying. Anybody know?
God knows.
I'm just watching Fury handing out like mega fucking Jager bombs here. There's fucking videos going all over the place here, eh?
Yeah.
I think his missus is wearing by the looks of it as well. Right, can I nominate Eddie Hearn, by the way?
Yeah, I've got one more though, Andy. I'm going to hold
mate.
you off. One more. Oligoki says Anthony Joshua equals the strength of Mike Tyson plus the speed of Manny Pacquiao. Anthony Joshua, it's your time, man.
Fucking.
That's bang on, really.
That's Barry Hearn fucking recycled comment, that one.
Right, go ahead, Andy. Sorry.
Eddie Hearn, I don't know, as I say, I very seldom watch any of his IEFL interviews, but someone sent me a link. He says, watch the last couple of minutes of this video. It was kind of dark in that, right? And see, to be honest, I know Belly the Week's about funny comments and stuff like that, but Hearn was actually quite funny, the way he put that across the last couple of minutes, and that he just rhymed off everything that he's got planned. Didn't matter if you agree with how good the fight is or whatever, stuff like that. It's just the way he did it. Didn't even bat an eyelid, hardly even fucking took a breath, hardly even blinked. So for that, I'm going to get to Eddie Hearn.
I saw that, Andy. It was quite funny, and I liked the way he talked about Linares Crowley. He says, "Yeah, some of them are saying that it's not a unification fight." He says, "But it's such and such and such." Says, "So I think it is." Yeah. Any more, Andy?
I think Smeedo just posted one up there. I'm going to chuck it out there. Anthony Joshua was the best heavyweight boxer of all time. Ali would be proud.
It's similar to that one from ASAP Tobbs we had earlier, but Lee Hurst, Lhurst88 on Twitter, that is a fucking belter.
That's all I've got, mate, but I actually want to vote for Coppinger.
Right, you can vote for Coppinger. Anybody else got any nominations first?
Yeah, I got one.
Dave Lobo?
Go ahead, Dave.
Dave Lobo.
Oh, okay. So I know we all pretty much know what the PBC is. I mean, it tends to be a platform for showcase fights. Certainly not 50-50 matchups. Now, last night was a rare exception. It was great, and I haven't seen it yet, but I heard it was tremendous. Looking forward to watching it. Sort of like the bouquet an abusive spouse gives you to come back to it. Anyway, Audley Harrison was tweeting last night, how can people not salute Al Heyman for these 50-50 fights at the highest level, televised to a nation, Thurman-Porter. So, Audley.
Love that bouquet analogy, man. That's freaking class. Right, who the hell's on here? Paul, have you got any?
You know I misheard the Coppinger one. Did you have the George Groves Coppinger one?
Yeah, that was the. But he
Yeah,
was
that was
for
the
a
Coppinger
multitude of offences. But yeah, that was.
Yeah, I won't add any more because I think Coppinger. Well, I've had many rants about him on this podcast. I did it midweek and last week, so he'll get my nomination regardless of who's done what.
He's a fucking cunt.
That's 2 for Coppinger anyway. Dave Lee, have you got any to throw in, a spanner in the works?
Yeah, the aforementioned Gordon Ramsay interview, which Andy mentioned a while back. The whole interview itself is a value of the week if you actually watch it. But there's one quote in particular that stood out. He was talking about when he stood up during the Ali ovation, and he said one block behind him, in reference to Joshua, he says, "This is our next Ali," and Ramsay says, "It doesn't get any better than that."
My only defence of Gordon Ramsay is he's not a fly-by-night casual like some of them that show up to these shows. I remember watching when you watch the Danny Williams Mark Potter fight when Williams' arm's hanging off.
Yeah,
And he still manages to knock him out.
Well.
Yeah, he was always
well.
front row. So he's been watching the sport for a while. But the problem is anyone that makes that Ali Joshua comparison, you just want to cringe and wince. But it's been said by an awful lot of people.
Well, he may go to a lot of fights, but he must be a lick or so, because when he was talking about Joshua, he was saying, "Oh, he's unstoppable, and Fury better take the fight now because it's going to be more painful for him down the road." So you're just licking Matchroom's arse.
Right. Any more nominations?
There's one for Shane Mosley. He's actually deleted the tweet, but last night, I mean, we know he and the Porter camp are tight. He's like friends with Sean Porter. So he was watching the PBC broadcast, and I guess the commentators had Thurman up like after 8 rounds, and Shane said, "Kill yourself."
Yeah, I saw that tweet.
He's actually blocked me on Twitter. I think it was actually his girlfriend, Dave, but I never saw that.
He's getting a bigger hater as you, Dave.
I like it.
Right, Dave Lee. Sorry if you already told me, but tell me again, please. Who you're going for?
I'll go for the Ramsay interview.
Smido.
Sorry, I've got to go for that kid. Lee Hurst saying, "I'm going to chuck it out there. Anthony Joshua is the best heavyweight boxer of all time. Ali would be proud." So Lee Hurst 88 on Twitter.
Andy, you've gone for Coppinger, haven't you?
Definitely, mate. That prick deserves it this week. Absolute wanker.
Hater Dave.
Well, Coppinger said that Groves had 0 chance of winning.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, him.
He also said getting paid actually carries weight when given the boxing opinion.
And he also said he was also talking like trash about the guy Funfara got knocked out by, saying that Funfara would like basically beat him up with ease, and he was tweeting like right before the fight, and then 2 rounds later, like 1 round later, it was
90 seconds later.
Everyone was tweeting him abuse, saying, "Yeah, what was you saying?" He says he just made himself look dickhead.
Coppinger's argument is flawed because I am a walking example of getting paid to write about boxing. Does not give you any type of authority whatsoever.
Your fucking fat Dan gets paid. I mean, that's all you need to say, don't you?
Right, Kurt, who are you going for?
I'm going for Billy Joe and his tweet about the Euros, but I like the way he put in just to make it clear. This might sound daft, but
Paul.
Yeah, I thought Billy Joe's was quite funny. It was just goes to show that interesting how many years of school he didn't complete. But no, it's going to be the NHL failed correspondent Mike Coppinger for me.
Coppinger's won, so my vote is pretty much meaningless. I'm going to go for ASAP Tobbs anyway, but Mike Coppinger, congratulations. We're going to tweet you out. I'm sure you'll be delighted to give you the value of the week.
Please, someone give it to him. Just let him know. I ain't tweeting the cunt anyway.
Right. Bit of a disaster in Welling's household here. I can't get the box rec schedule up for some reason. It won't load, so I have absolutely no idea what's next week. Is there nothing at all, Andy?
No,
There's nothing. There's a fight for Thailand at minimum weight against Brian Rojas, knockout CP freshman. I think Rojas was the one that upset Heike Butler. couple of months back. It's the only fight really kind of kicking around. That's next Wednesday. So, and there's nothing on the following week either. So we'll probably need to get some of the historical stuff looked at.
Yep, certainly will. Anybody else
Well, what
want
about
to
Jamel Herring versus Shafikov? That's not bad.
Who?
Denis Shafikov versus Jamel Herring.
Oh, I remember him now. Aye.
Where's
That's
that,
okay.
Dave? Is that in Russia?
Mexico, is it not?
Pennsylvania. Hey, it's not far from me. I might go to it.
You're going to go to that one?
Oh, there
Reading.
you go. Ringside pass. Roving
Dave,
reporter.
Ramsey. Right, anybody else want to add anything before we cut it off for the week?
Tyson Fury's a drug cheap bum.
I was not even waiting.
Josh was
for
on the
that.
road.
AG's overrated.
Right, that's it. I'm going to knock it on the head, boys, whether you've got anything to say or not. Tough shit. Okay, I'm going to thank the panel. We've had a good discussion this week. I've enjoyed this one, actually. Thanks to everybody who's jumped on. Hey to Dave Loback's been on, Paul Webb, Mr. Kurt Ward, Andy Patterson, Adam Smith, and Mr. David Lee. Don't forget, guys, to like the Facebook page, follow all the boys on Twitter. There's some great value to be had, I'm sure. Subscribe and do all those lovely things. We very much appreciate it. 5 stars on iTunes, thanks very much. And we shall speak to you all next week. Cheers. Bye.
Nandrolone.
Peace out.